Gather round, we got no gods to please. Saturday night, no sermons, just ease. Discussions flow like midnight breeze. No prophets here, just minds to tease. We talk big bangs and evolution. Question faith with our solution. Stars align in our confusion. Breaking free from old illusion. Join the fun, no need for trust. Dust to dust, we're stardust. No heaven high or hell to fear. Saturday night, we hold it dear. Fun and laugh at myth believers. Here we're all truth seekers. Open hearts and swift deceivers. Make a stand, no hidden levers. Raise your glass to reason's thrill. No ancient text, it's our own will. Debate till dawn, feel golden chill. Saturday night, we've got the skill. Echoes of a godless choir. Like the world that sparked the fire. Free our mindset to inspire. No holy walls to take us higher. Join the fun, no need for trust. Dust to dust, we're stardust. No heaven high or hell to fear. Saturday night, we hold it dear. Join the fun, no need for trust. Dust to dust, we're stardust. No heaven high or hell to fear. Saturday night, we hold it dear. Join the fun, no need for trust. Dust to dust, we're stardust. No heaven high or hell to fear. Saturday night, we hold it dear. Fun and laugh at myth believers. Here we're all truth seekers.
Greetings. Welcome to the Captive Desk, hosting Saturday Night at the Atheist. And we have our panel of atheists joining us tonight. We have Brainless joining us. We have Scott Duke. And we have Mike, also known as Speed, from Answers in Atheism. And we have a special guest joining us, Math Pig. And you might also know him as Robbie. Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
For having us.
I see Samos is backstage.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask him about Simos. What the hell he's doing.
Hello, Simos.
Hey.
How we
You
feeling?
sound much stronger today, Simos.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, on the mend, which is good.
Good.
Voice is still a little weak, but hey.
Yeah, I was kind of worried about you when you opened your mouth last week. You sounded
Yeah, I
kind of
know.
weak, like you couldn't get any air, and I thought that is not good.
Did you
Yeah.
get Texas measles?
I don't know what that is, Speed.
Texas measles?
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
measles from all the dumbasses who won't vaccinate in Texas.
Oh, no. Yeah. Texas is making measles great again.
Yes.
So, yeah.
We got a
Yeah,
few pounds
they never,
over here
they never
that
found out what it was. They just gave me a load of drugs and something ended up working. So
Good.
yeah, I'm pleased.
Drugs are good.
And hello, Tori. How are you doing? Tori's joining
And
us.
I thought with the title of this one, God's existence, somebody needs to be a strong atheist. So tell them where to get off,
We
no
got
one is stronger than I.
well, we're gonna take care of some business here before we get started.
Ooh.
Oh, damn. I
That's
hate
some
that.
fighting words there, Dave.
That's right.
I'm very serious.
We're gonna run the ad from the Kentucky Atheist here, and because that's coming up next week. The fundraiser for the Ark Encounter show is going to be on. So We'll let everybody know about it here.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, that's coming up next. Well, about a week, right? The 19th. So yeah, it'll be in a week. It'll be next Saturday, I guess.
Are you going, Dave, to the protest in July?
And if I can go, I'm going. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
there's going to be a lot of people there, and I hear Jay Bundy's been added. So
The only way to get a decent plane ticket, though, is to like go on the 4th of July and stay for like 3 days, because if you go the day before, it's like a weekend thing. It's really expensive. So
yeah, it's as long as I have to make arrangements or whatever, but if I can, I'll be there. So it's about a 4-hour drive for me. So it's going to have to be have to make some kind of arrangements, at least night before or night after or something, because that's a whole day of driving. So
yeah, it'd be a long drive for me.
and we have MathPig joining us, and we also have MathPig's audience joining us, because we are streaming over with MathPig on a duel tonight.
Yeah, just tweaking that. Sorry. Yeah, it should be coming through to my channel as well. Everybody that's over mine, there's Spooky and Stephen and stuff there. It's a Captive Discs channel. If you give me 5 minutes, I'll put the link in the chat. But yeah, appreciate you coming. Appreciate you inviting me, man.
And link is in the description too. If you aren't subscribed to MathPig, make sure you check out all the links in the description while you're down there. All the panelists, we put the links down there. We put the links for Kentucky Atheist, so you can get in touch with all the stuff about the Ark Encounter protest. We have the links for Joe's affiliate, where you can get a discount. The discount code is in the description. And we have a link for Bree and HiveSci, where Bree has merch now. You might have seen me in previous weeks wearing a shirt. If you're in the market for a t-shirt, go over to HiveSci and get one over there. And Bree would appreciate it a lot.
Speaking of which,
I will drop MathPig in the chat too.
Yeah, speaking of which, I think Bree's got something going on Tuesday night as well.
Really?
Or Tuesday night for us. It's probably Tuesday evening for you guys. So hopefully she'll send a link for that, so you can put that in your chat as well.
Okay.
Streaming on my channel too, but nobody should go over there and chat. Just pull up a window and run it so I can get views. That's all I care about. We don't want to hear from you. We just want your views. So
we can do that. Have you got any playlists? Have you got any playlists, Mike? Make a playlist, and then I can just hit play and let it run in the background.
Yeah, that'd be great. I've got a few, but they're actually things that I want. I don't know. It's not very well organized. I got some Snata playlists, I think, from a long time ago. Those are cool. We used to have some pretty wild and irreverent shows, so it's pretty good.
And before we get going tonight, I want to thank everybody. I hit 500 subscribers. And very much appreciate everybody that subscribes, everybody that comes through, watches, likes, comments, and all that, shares, and all that good stuff. And it's official. I got my email from YouTube that I can apply for affiliate partner or something like that.
I think you get stickers, don't you?
Yeah, I get a few goodies. So
nice.
Some goodies in the future. So that's really cool. And yeah, once again, thanks everybody. I was really trying to get it for the 3rd anniversary of my channel, and I came real close. So it worked out great. And
well, fucking done.
Everybody that's helped me, all the channels that have given me shout outs, all appreciated very, very much. So and onward to 1,000, right? Okay. And with business taken care of, hello everybody in the chats. Lots of people joining. Hello to everybody. I see Jin and Dog, everybody out there. Phantom, hello.
Okay. Oh my.
We got Sandy and Spooky and other folks over on Robbie's side there. And Mike said he's got it going too.
Yep.
Hello to everybody over there.
My subs go up like 3, 4, 5, and then they go back down like 4. And they keep doing that. It's 743 subs. I've been doing this for 5 years. Really irritating. And then I go and look at these idiots like that Sabor guy, 150,000 subs. What is going on?
You're probably getting that from different servers, because your information's not just stored on one. So refreshing between the two is probably why it goes up and down and up and
I
down.
hate that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tori. Thank you, Maya. Good to see you, Maya. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks, Dog. Lots of folks in the community help each other out, and it's always appreciated.
Mike, put your channel in the private chat. I'll stick it in mine as well, and we'll get anybody. Okay. If they haven't, they should.
I want 1,000 subs before I die. That's all I ask.
That's right.
And I don't have long.
So after when you hit 1,000 subscribers, we can shoot you.
Well, yeah, I'm probably going to drop dead if I see 1,000. So it'll just, the old ticker won't be able to take it.
Once again, everybody's links are in the description. Drop down there, check them all out, subscribe to mine while you're down there, and hit the bell so you're notified when we go on. And like I say, there's links down there for affiliate, get a discount with Joe's stuff. And Joe also has merch. Bree has merch. And we have a new member joining us, so to speak. A lot of us know Carrie Ann Chrysler. And Carrie Ann is starting a channel and taking on a mission over there.
Really?
And the link for that channel is in the description as well. It's not a regular channel. It's a new separate channel. So make sure you drop down in there and hit up Carrie's channel too and share that around, get her all kind of subs and help her out, help get the word out. She's got a video she's in the process of making, and lots to come over there. So Carrie Ann's taking the reins on, so to speak, and she's calling herself God, I think, or something over there. So that kind of lean on the channel. So it should be very interesting. So go support Carrie Ann. Links in the description. We got all the good stuff down there. Make sure you check out the description. And with that, we have, I don't have it pulled up because I was busy talking. We have a channel tonight. I look around for the small channel stuff because we like to have a little bit of fun here. And I commented on one of these videos, and I don't know who runs it or who comments back or anything like that. But I kind of got a snarky comment back, and I'm like, okay, well, we're going to take a look at your channel because. So then I was talking to Austin, and Austin said, yeah, this channel is known for a lot of the creationists that run around, come through this church and speak and everything. I guess it's kind of a hub for them. So I was like, okay, interesting.
I like hubs.
Yeah. I'm trying to find where I put my thing at. But in the meantime, I've got the bookmark here. Probably be quicker. because I don't remember what folder I've got the thing in. I just got a little bit there. In a nutshell, this guy doesn't seem to have any credentials. So, we always go to look to see if they're a scientist or not, if they're a theologian or not, anything like that, and what I could find. And
Your level seems to be coming in and out a little bit there, Dave.
is
I
it?
don't know why that is.
Yeah. I was just about to say. When you start talking over time, it gets quieter.
Yeah, trails
I
off.
think there is something cutting your audio down.
Yep, you got like some kind of noise suppression or something that's kicking in.
Noise gate on, yeah.
Nope, but I changed my link. How's that?
I think it's still getting weak. As if you talk for more than 30 seconds, it just goes down. And remember, you used to have that problem a long time ago.
Well,
I don't know what. I assumed you were getting like tired or running out of breath, and you couldn't.
Dave, Mike. There's only two of us that have that issue on this.
Yeah,
panel.
I know. I went for a walk with my 43-year-old son, and he was breathing harder than me.
Wow.
And I told him, he said I'm really out of shape if I'm as bad as a 6-pack a day smoker. So
the level's reading okay.
It sounds fine here.
Does it sound okay now?
Okay. Maybe it's okay now.
Sounds better, yeah.
I switched it because sometimes it switches back to the default, which is also
that sounds
the same mic, but it's
so annoying. Mine did that earlier. I joined the stream before this, and it was like, Robbie, your audio was shit, and it had swapped over, from that to like the shitty camera mic.
Oh, for me, it sometimes grabs the mic from my headset.
Yeah, every time I put my headset on my AirPods, it switches over to that, and that is shit. So I have to go manually switch it back.
Like StreamYards, we're setting our audio to those things for a fucking reason, not just for fun.
Yep. So, what is the name of this our guest Christian site tonight?
That's
the channel name.
That's what I'm looking. It's the New Jersey something or other.
Hey,
I have.
Hell yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure I can search for that.
I have the thing saved here the bookmarks here, and
I'm going to search for New Jersey something or another and see what I get.
Hey, I'm Walking Air Ministries.
I know I have it here somewhere.
What is it called? I can find it in my history, I think.
I think it's called Are You Looking at Jesus?
Oh, let's see here.
Okay, well, I can't find my dang folder.
Oh no. Well, we'll just chat. So my son has this uncanny ability when I start talking about a movie, I'll say, "You remember that movie with that guy driving in that car?" And he'll say, "Oh yeah," and he'll pop up the title, and he did it, and he gets really pissed off at me because my descriptions are so general. And the other day I was talking about, you remember that? I just started watching a new series where there's this alien on this stranded on a planet, and he got it immediately. It just popped up, and it's like, how does he do that?
That's the thing, man. Like me and my wee girl is the same. I even said it to her today. It's like, thank goodness I have you that understands what I'm talking about, because trying to talk to other people is really difficult. You have to talk forever, and it's like 3 words they understand.
I have that with my mom. Like sometimes she says, "Oh yeah," and it's like, "Thing is that thing," And I'm like, and I
Yeah.
for some reason, I exactly know what thing she's talking about.
It's because your
Like
brains are on
everybody's
the.
looking like, wait, you know what she's talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, it's because your context is so much alike, or you know
Yeah.
that, or they know
Yeah,
you
like-
so well. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's obvious to you, you know, and your mum is the same as like, you know, Mike and his kid or me and my daughter, because it's obvious because you have just done that so
Yeah, and
often. You know,
I think it also has to do with like I kind of know how my mom thinks.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
like
Yeah, this is the First Bible Church of New Jersey.
Yeah. Hell, why
And
can't
when I mentioned that, that's when Austin's ears perked up, and he said, "I know that place." And I said, "Oh, okay." I told him to stop by if he could. He was busy, but maybe he was able to stop by.
your
And
mic's still cutting out.
Dang it!
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Like
it's
and
some
like
sort
it's
of
not just getting quiet; it's almost shutting up.
it's some kind of noise suppression that you got on, maybe on StreamYard, because StreamYard
Yeah.
really sucks at audio. They don't know what the hell they're doing.
yeah.
For me, it usually does work, but like
Yeah, you have to set
some
up the
reason for a lot of-
StreamYard. You have to set up the StreamYard settings separately now. They've changed the software. So you have to go in and manually set the microphone and speakers.
Oh my god!
All right, how about now?
Oh,
Yay!
oh my goodness!
Now you
Sound much
changed
better
like,
now?
Much
Oh,
better.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What'd you do? What did you do?
I turned the mic off and on.
Oh, okay. That's it.
If only we,
When
if
all
only it was
else
that simple,
fails,
Mike. Hey, if
When
only
all
that-
else
it was that
fails, you
simple,
turn
Mike.
it off and you turn it back on again. I was a technician for a lot of years. It's a default. You know? Okay,
yeah.
turn it off and turn it back on again. Okay, you can hear me now. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, First Bible Church of New Jersey.
Oh, what the
Couldn't
hell?
really find anything else other than
First there.
let's see.
They make you a sacrament you can't refuse.
Oh, there they are. You know, and YouTube search couldn't find it in my history, and I know I've watched these guys. So, I mean, it's just, what the hell? Oh.
Had
Standing for Truth was on there?
I sometimes have that as well. Like then you're like, I've watched that, and you know part of the title, and you type it in, and like a bunch of shit comes up in your history, but not that one video that you're looking for.
Right.
What?
Yeah.
They're horrible with their search engine.
Yeah, and like it's fucking Google.
Same thing happened to me when I looked for Formula One Cup.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
with YouTube, I think what they're doing, they're not doing just the search. They're running it through their get paid algorithm. So they're confusing the two things, popping up stuff they want you to see.
okay. I found
Like
I
if
found
it's
the
my
other.
fucking history, it's my fucking history.
Here
I
it
know.
is. Yeah, it's Pastor Patrick Misiana, Misciagna,
Can you say
Misiana,
it with an Italian accent, please, Dave?
Misiana.
There you go. Perfect.
Senior
Fabio.
pastor of
We need
First
Fabio in
Bible.
here. Get Fabio in here.
Yeah, that's what we need.
My chat, you're calling him out, Simos.
I
He's
know.
over there watching on my
I
channel.
know.
It just says pastor,
He's
and
suffering with
he's
the echo, apparently.
apparently
No,
it's 700 sermons is his credentials.
So what's the name of his the video that we're reviewing? The Absurdity of Atheism?
The one for tonight is it's actually a 4-parter.
Oh.
So I've got part 1 and part 2 because you know how it goes. So
What's it called, though?
I'm grabbing it right here. Okay. Part 1.
Literally? It's called Part 1?
Part 1. And it's It's ready to answer questions about God's existence.
Oh,
Mr. Balls.
Thumbnail had,
Hello, sir.
does God exist on the thumbnail?
oh, I see it. I see it.
Got it?
Yeah.
Hello,
Okay,
Claude. How you doing? Good to see you.
I want to put that in chat in case anybody wants to see the. Yeah, I remember this guy. This guy was the one that did the thing about evolution. And
Yeah,
he-
the one. Yeah,
It's not how you pronounce it. It's Mike.
What's
I
that?
irritated you with it.
That's
like
not how
a
you
week.
pronounce it if you're a Christian.
Evolution.
Thank you very
Evil.
much.
Evolution.
That's the one.
Evolution.
And hello,
Okay.
hello, Chris, and hello, Standard Deviation. Hello, Commander. Hello, Jill. Hello, Claude. Great to see you. And everybody on the other
When you were talking about
screens.
promoting Jill earlier, I thought you were talking about Jill, and it was like, oh, why are you promoting Jill?
Not that
That
one.
makes sense.
Not that one. New subscriber. Subscribed the other day. Appreciate you being here. Okay. Yeah. So you remember him now, Mike, right? And
Yeah, I
all the
remember.
information. This is it for the bio. It
Yeah,
is
I almost had a bird.
700 sermons. So I couldn't find anything else.
Got to be at least one point in there worth making.
So there, but yeah, I did get a comment back on my comment, and so I was like, okay, well, they want a little back and forth, so we'll give a little back and forth. Take a look at the video and see if they really do have proof that God exists. Hello,
Look,
Rochelle.
the video says they do, Dave. So come on now.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm very hopeful with this one. So hopeful I've waited half an hour.
Yeah, it's taking you 29 minutes, Dave, to find this video and put it up on the
I know.
screen.
Well, now
It does not bode well because we get through about 1 minute every 2.5 hours.
Well, we had to take care of business, and
Okay.
so we used a few
Okay.
minutes there, and then
I
I
forgive
couldn't
you.
find the dang folder because it had a little mistake at the beginning of the. Anyway, I found it. So
Cutting
yeah,
out again.
700 sermons is the credentials for. What I say his name was Patrick. Yeah, Patrick.
We can't all be production specialists like Answers in Atheism. So, high
True.
production values.
Very true. Or Fabio and Funk, in fact.
You're going to open up to Romans chapter 1 to get started. Romans
I
chapter
don't
1.
want to.
Tell me when. Good. So when you get to Romans chapter 1, we will look at verses. I don't like putting verses on the screen, so we will look at the verses. But I do have a few visuals that might make it just easier to see. And
Is that blasphemy?
It might be.
Is that like...
I forgot.
Is it just me, or can you not get past the tiles on the floor? Like, when was this room updated? In like 1970?
Oh, it's a chess set.
It is.
And I'm also expecting that it's the room he's talking to, because they all had to look up a chapter in the Bible. They all
Right.
found it all in 1 second.
Yeah.
I did get a little wine to celebrate tonight.
That's great.
500 subs, so I'm gonna have a little bit of wine. So
I
if I
don't get
drop
why
right
he doesn't
off,
want to put verses on the
you know
screen.
why.
Okay.
Well,
Have you got a
because
bit of
it's a
bread?
false
You got a bit
idol.
of bread to go with that, Dave? You got a bit of bread to go with that?
I had a sandwich before we started. So
There you go.
He thinks it's a false
Miracle.
idol.
It's a miracle.
Well, that's my guess,
My wife
Scott.
made me an
Oh.
awesome chicken sandwich, so much appreciated.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Romans
Hey,
1.
I'm sorry for talking over you. The guy just said something so stupid, I couldn't get over it. I do apologize
Yeah.
for
That's
interrupting.
all right. That's all right.
The reason for it is that he doesn't have the technical know-how to put it
Oh.
on the screen. That's
Well, it's in the
That's-
70s, so
Yeah,
you
even
know.
back in the 70s, you had those clear, those clear
Yeah.
transparencies with the words on it.
Right.
Oh
You
yeah,
just put it down.
those overhead projectors.
yeah.
I mean, in fact, I'm I feel like I'm spinning, rotating horizontally or something or vertically because it's triggering me like I'm back in the 70s. I don't want to go there, but it's sucking me into it. And
it is taking me back. It is.
Yeah. This is also reminds me of the basement of a Salvation Army that where I attended a debate between an apologist and one of the humanist / atheist leaders in the Dallas area several years ago. And it has the same feel to it.
Impressive.
That tile is 1950s green tile. They painted everything in America green in right after World War II. I think because they had paint or something for the tanks and they sold it surplus, but it was all that ugly green.
It's the lead or something in it that does it, doesn't it?
Hello, Robin. Good to see you.
Hello, Robin. Good to see you.
Oh, also, this guy reminds me of a C-rated Nicolas Cage. So I'm excited for this video.
A little bit.
Yeah, and I kind of noticed, like, how is a Christian school bully free? Like, they bully people to believing, like, otherwise you're going to hell.
You're going to hell, yeah.
Yeah.
And its sign says it's a bully free.
I'm guessing this is in a church basement. But,
well, I think you have to pay for that bully. That bully is not free. The God one.
10% costs you 10%.
Yeah, 10%.
The sad reality is that, and this is the cover of a book, that we are living more and more in a pagan culture.
Well, there's the problem.
Wouldn't it be more accurate to say secular culture? I know there are people that get into Wicca and things like that, but I still don't think that they're that massive. I think it's more of a secular culture. So, or a culture where it's not afraid to go, hey, Thor and Loki and Odin, they're pretty interesting stories too. Let's listen to them.
Let's go around the world.
So sick of this narrative.
We have friends here tonight from overseas. So, what is it like overseas? Are there pagans running wild with antlers and everything?
You see lots of people wearing hooves in the high street these days.
Go to the local Navan's Fort in Armagh. They do the celebration of the solstices and stuff like that there, and have all that. That's only about 15-20 minutes up the road. It looks like a lot of fun, you know. I haven't been, but there could be a lot of naked ladies and naked people running around the forest.
Oh yeah,
they haven't been. They're not knocking. They're not knocking on your door, Math Pig, and trying to get you to put on the horns or anything. No,
no. The worst we get over here is fucking politicians.
That's I imagine Ireland.
And I do think like a lot of that is like for people that like just want to go there and go for a good time and maybe like celebrate nature and that, but like having it the complete religion, I don't think that there's that many people that but like if I had a friend that would attempt that, like I'd say like, oh hey fuck it, I'll join you.
I'm just kind of wondering how he's going to get Romans 1 to match up with America's becoming pagan, because those two things don't go together.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get the string out. We'll figure a way.
Yeah, we get the
Bible. I know you can do it. If anyone can do it, you can, Dave.
It's an idolatrous culture. It's an increasingly atheistic culture.
Not pagan,
it's more and more a godless culture.
Yeah, so much for the pagan thing, right? That's still a god, right?
So what's your problem with that?
He's losing subscribers. That's the problem. Yeah.
They're never going to renovate that basement.
Nope.
Doesn't say much for an all-powerful God either.
No.
Yeah.
And I was looking up some statistics by the Pew Research Center. You might have heard of them. In the 1990s, 90% of Americans identified as Christian. And now we know that's probably not the case, not Bible Christians, but at least there was a recognition of God in Jesus Christ. In 2021, that dropped to 63%. That's a lot.
God, that's still high.
63.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's way too high.
Hello, Ed. How are you doing? Good to see you. Edit the
we're
rabid
getting there.
atheist.
Yeah. If only he decided to
There's
go
a
back
part.
another 100 years, he would have got to 100%,
Yeah.
maybe 200.
I like your math.
2% of
They don't
Americans,
think these things through. They don't think these things through, really, do they?
just a few years ago, said that they identified as Christians. And I know we're not going to get to this year, God willing, but Pew Research Center projects that by 2070, Christians will be a minority in America. If that,
Hang on a
if
second,
that
Dave. What did he
27.
say? What did he say?
Pew Research, I think, said by
No, he
2070.
said, I know we're
If
not
that's the
going
case.
to get to what? He said something about, I know we're not going to, by the end of this year, but I know we're not going to get there or something. What did he say? I heard that the first time I listened to this.
Why don't we roll that beautiful bean footage again and see what it said?
Here we go.
to this year, God willing, but Pew Research Center projects that by
That was
2070,
before.
Christians will be
Bit more back.
I don't know what he said. Like, we're not going to get there or something like that. Like, we're not going to make it to the end
I'll
of the
bump it a
year.
little bit
In
back.
2021, that dropped to 63%. That's a lot. 63% of Americans just a few years ago said that they identified as Christians. And I know we're not going to get to this year, God willing.
To this year. What is
Not
Is there
going to
not a
get to
person,
this year.
Samos, you could maybe back me up on this? Is there not a person who took something similar that was done over here in the UK and then went further into it? You know, that 63% that he's saying, to use that as a number, that's cultural Christians, you know, people identifying because a lot of people around them do. Now, that's mainly what it's like over here, you know. I'd say our numbers would probably be higher than that. But what we would refer to as, you know, someone saying they're a Christian and actually being a Christian
right?
is totally different.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
hardly
more
ever
like
set foot
30%.
in a church. Maybe only with Christmas.
You think
Yeah,
the guy
like a
was
lot of
saying,
those
well, maybe Jesus will come back before that 2070 or whatever year he said? Because he's saying Christianity is going to disappear. And he's saying, well, we won't get there, but was that what he was
He
saying?
lost me. I don't.
Yeah, it's not really clear what he was saying.
Yeah, and I think he's saying what Mice
But was
just
prob-
said. I think he's probably thinking that the rapture will happen before 2070.
Yeah.
Incidentally, that is the
Very
same
good.
year that Newton predicted the rapture would happen.
Oh, wow.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Now, did he really, or is that like a Nostradamus?
No,
Yeah,
no,
that's
he really wrote it down as 2070.
Oh, wow. That's
It-
interesting.
That's what I thought this guy was saying. It's like I replayed it a couple times and it sounded like we're not going to get there, God willing. It's like, wait a minute.
Well,
Well, yeah,
a lot of
all
that in
Oh,
evangelical circles is the hint or the suggestion that Jesus will come back before then.
Soon.
If the Lord don't come back, yeah.
Well, a lot of Americans already think he's back. He's fat. He's stinky, and he's orange.
He probably smells like old socks that haven't been washed in
And
months.
McDonald's.
So he
Smells of
smells
old
And
like,
socks.
McDonald's. Yeah,
he
McDonald's.
smells like farts because he can't keep it in.
It just occurred to me if Jesus came back, he'd probably kick Trump out. And I'm looking, oh my God, that would be so great.
Oh, Trump would kick him out.
Yeah, he'd put him in that fucking prison out there. And, yeah,
Down to El Salvador.
El Salvador prison
El
for
Salvador,
Jesus.
yeah.
Yeah, like sell him as a slave.
Yeah,
They're not
he'd
have a
get
tattoo.
crucified in about a week.
Yeah, well, technically, Jesus doesn't have an American passport, so
Oh yeah, yeah.
Won't be able to vote
Well, he
either.
can buy one for $5 million.
okay.
You heard about that, right?
No.
Oh yeah, he's got a
You
gold passport that's
Yeah.
it's so big you couldn't possibly put it in your pants, and it's made out of gold and it costs $5 million, and anybody can become a citizen if they have $5 million. Even like Genghis Khan could become a citizen if he had $5 million. It doesn't matter what the hell you did.
He'll
you
give you a Trump green card. That's
Yeah.
actually good.
What about like Adolf Hitler? Oh no, he probably wouldn't have to pay.
Yeah, he'd get in free. he gets a pass.
Family discount. Hello, Tilting Windmill. Good to see you.
Hey, Whitmill.
Okay, I interrupted.
But Pew Research Center projects that by 2070, Christians will be a minority in America if that exponential trend begins to continue. So the first question and difficult question that you're very likely to encounter in the culture you're living in is, does God exist?
And there we go. We're going to find out, because that's what we're here for.
More importantly,
I already answered it. I said no.
No, you can't be closed-minded. We got to go into this. You got to give him a few minutes, brainless.
More importantly, though, he's actually asking, how do we know as well? So I'm impressed with this guy. This guy now is impressing me.
There's a guy at work, and he's a youth leader, and he knows that, we would have questions and stuff back and forth and discussions at work. And he actually, was it a couple of weeks ago, in his youth group between the ages of 8 and 12, as he described it to me, had handed in questions to be answered at the next week. And this was one of the questions. And he asked me, as he seen it as an atheist, to answer this question. And I, obviously explained agnosticism and this, that, and the other, but I changed it to, how do we know if he does or doesn't exist? And then gave like a whole spiel of an A4 page. And he assured me that he did read it out for word for word, and then gave his opinion afterwards, which probably destroyed it to the young children. But it was nice of him to at least ask me that, and if he's being honest, which I do believe he is, to put that forth.
Ryan, you're right on time for the answer. So here we go.
I'm impressed. He's asking, how do we know, which is a more pertinent question.
And how do we know if God exists? Like, what is there? Now, I want to say this on the onset. Romans 1:19. The Bible says, because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath showed it unto them. The atheism that we are surrounded by is not an intellectual argument. You are not going to win them with intellect and fossil evidence and carbon-14 problems and all these logical loop. You're not going to win anybody that way.
Because reason.
Correct.
No reason. Yeah.
He's basically saying there, we can't know, because all of those types of evidence that he's just set out are the only ways that we know how to know. Any epistemology either uses reason or evidence. Those are the only two things we've got.
Mind what he just said.
He's basically said we can't know.
And he says, you can't use all these different things, but he's gonna later. So.
Yeah, no, but he's going to try, of course, because those are the only things we've got for epistemology. So, of course, he's going to try.
Of course, he's saying you can't do that because you can't, with facts, you cannot prove God.
What Bible passage did he suggest we read? Romans?
He said Romans, but what he read out from Romans was just a circular argument,
Was it like 1:17 or something?
1:19. 119, and then they go into 120.
Okay.
The invisible things and all that. We got Ape stopping by. Hello, how you doing, Kevin?
Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
Romans 1:20 says, for the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen.
See, I told you so.
And there we go. The classic. Look at everything you can't see. Just look at it.
Let's look at the trees,
I can see trees. Trees are not included.
Well,
it's only things you can't see.
But the invisible things, it doesn't make any sense. Look at the invisible things.
Nonsense.
No.
Atheists will say, I've never seen God, and these guys say, yes, you have. Just look.
Well, and in a way, too, it's saying that you can't know the qualities of a tree and everything else, right? I mean, it's all this big mystery, right? And it was for them, right? It's not today.
This is the original look at the trees passage. That's what this is. The look at the trees passage.
Yeah.
Right, Scott?
Absolutely.
So that's something that we hear every week about, looking at the trees, looking at the skies, looking at the things that are created in nature. In fact, I almost tuned it out completely because it's so common to hear that.
Yeah, but this is the actual passage where they get that from. So
Well, I
Yeah,
know this is the definition of faith passage, isn't it?
Well, that's
Yeah.
11:1. Hebrews
is it?
11:1. Faith
Oh,
is the evidence of things hoped for, the substance of things not seen.
Oh, okay.
that was what 11:1?
Hebrews 11:1.
Hebrews, is that a
That's
Bible
a
book?
pseudo epigrapha of somebody. Actually, it's an anonymous epistle, and it's actually, when I was a Christian, Hebrews was one of my favorite letters or favorite epistles, simply because it just seemed to have a better use of language and imagery than the other letters.
Your favorite
Of course,
epistle?
it's an epistle. It's a circular epistle. In other words, it was passed around from church to church or delivered from church to church, and they would read it to the congregation. But there's no real indication that it was written by the Apostle Paul. In fact, it's not clear who wrote it. And but I'm not saying it accurately described the temple life or the Old Testament or whatever. I'm just saying, and it's the way it was translated, at least translated into English. It was just kind of really flowery language. But that's Hebrews 11:1 is the faith passage, and of course that passage in Romans 1:19 and 20, maybe 21, is the look at the trees passage, where you should know that there's a God because He's made Himself known in His creation.
Well, damn, that did it for me because I never read those two things before, and I got to tell you guys, that did it. I'm a believer now.
You're convinced? Okay. Well,
I'm absolutely convinced.
Answers in not atheism.
Yeah, answers in used to be atheism.
Well, like I'm also convinced that he's an idiot.
I just don't think he's a very deep thinker at this point. If he's saying you can't use reason or evidence to know how God exists or to know if God exists, then he's just shut himself out straight away. That's why I thought he was going to go to Hebrews for the faith answer, which, okay, fair enough. We'll just finish the video there then. It's all faith. Well done. But no, apparently not. Apparently he's saying, look at the trees. Apparently, I don't know.
The trees. And look at the bees when you're looking at the trees.
Which,
we have Bumblebee
have,
in the chat. Hello, Bree.
Hey, Bree. We have a lot of very easy ways to distill scientific information now to the public, right? People have found out the genetic connection between trees and plants and animals, etc. So, we can look at the trees on a micro level and tell you exactly how trees work, right? We know where the carbon comes from that makes the wood. We know the process by which they give off oxygen, how they split the carbon dioxide in the air. That's all known. So we know how trees work. There's no need to have some God-type explanation for it. And that goes for so many things, which previously the Bible said we had answers for, but turned out to be wrong.
That's actually one of the things I pointed out in the answer. I opened it, the answer with, if we're truly honest with ourselves, we can never know. But one of the things I did bring up was as you put, Simos, every single time somebody thought something was God, it's always been wrong.
Yeah.
Have a good show, Ed. And I got my email from YouTube. I'm official. I passed 500 subs.
I just heard the same.
Says I got one more. So
I just heard the same speech on another YouTube channel this morning, where he said it's not about reason. It's not a reasoning thing. It's a belief thing. In other words, you just got to believe it. Don't use reason. Don't worry about reason. Reason is the things that men do. Men reason, right? We don't want to reason like men. Oh my goodness! I think it's going around.
Like there's some special category of reason or thinking
or knowing. There's a special knowing.
Right? It says in the Bible, Paul says, Always be prepared to give a reason for your faith.
It's kind of like that
This
special
guy's
knowing.
just picking and choosing. He doesn't know the Bible, clearly.
Yeah, it's like a jealous guy when that special knowing that his wife is cheating on him. He just knows. He doesn't need any evidence.
But
just
we all
knows.
know evidence is for fools.
Yeah.
Like, ask any flat earther. Like, yeah.
Yeah, but
Evidence is for
that would
art
be
and
fine.
law.
That would be fine if he'd stuck with reason, then, wouldn't it? But he's also discounted reason. So, I mean, this is not going to turn out well, I can tell you.
The existence of God is a self-evident truth.
There you go. Game over.
There we go. How, though? How do you know it's self-evident?
Mike, don't you have it in your? Don't you know it in your heart?
It's right in my heart now. It's just so much in my heart. It's
So much, see?
oh, wait a
Mike's
minute.
got
No,
it
I
in
think
our-
that's indigestion.
That's why I usually tell folks. I said, "This too shall pass."
Yeah, and if you're, and just in case you haven't noticed, this person has started gaslighting. Whenever somebody's telling you what you think and how you feel, and gosh, are you weird or something because you don't think this way or don't feel this way? You're being gaslighted. So this is what gaslighting looks like. Sometimes it takes subtle forms. This doesn't take quite a subtle form, but yeah, get used to it. That's what happens.
It's like 3 is greater than 2. I don't need to prove to you that 3 is greater than 2.
Yes, you
But
do.
you can prove 3 is greater than 2. You don't need to, because that's child's play. But if you wanted to, you could prove that 3 was greater than 2.
Right. So this is just terrible start.
Is a self-evident truth.
Without using products or things or objects?
Anything. It's just.
Well, then again, like.
Well, he's just assuming you already know how to count and everything. You don't.
I was just being facetious and wondering if you could, without a visual aid, show, or that 3 is greater than 2.
Well, I mean, it's in the axioms of arithmetic. So
go ahead, Brainless.
Like, well, I'd rather just have 2 stab wounds than 3.
I mean, if you're just picking things up and you have 2 apples, let's say, and the other cave person has 3 apples, and you're kind of looking like you got more apples than I do, right? I mean,
yeah.
Well, people do have an innate ability to do comparisons, just kind of non-specific comparisons, like this lump is bigger than that lump, or this number of coconuts. This number of coconuts is greater than that number of coconuts. And we have to be taught mathematics, though. 3 minus 2, or 3 plus 2 is 5, or whatever. That does have to be taught. It doesn't have to be proven. It has to be taught, because you have to be pretty well advanced in mathematics to be able to prove 3 plus 2 is 5 or 2 plus 2 is 4. But it's doable. You can actually do a proof. But you can have demonstrations. And you have to have demonstrations as a young kid of how math works, and then you can go on and do it yourself. But none of that is self-evident.
It has to. It would have to be some input, like what Math Pig was saying, because even if you're, deaf, dumb, and blind, Helen Keller or something like that, there still has to be like tapping your hand, you know what I mean, or something, right? To get the idea of more and less. I don't think without the visual cues or some other kind of cues, I don't think you could really know that, could you?
Well, like I said, behind basic arithmetic, there are axioms, and they may not be taught in year 1 or to children, but of course they underlie mathematics, or they underlie arithmetic. And it clearly states in there how you can go about proving them once you understand the axioms. So, there is a perfectly logical way to understand why 3 is greater than 2. But,
Right.
It's just technical. I mean, and it's self-evident in the sense that once you accept that the first axiom, the second axiom follows, the third axiom follows, etc.
I watched a thing the other day on the discovery, so to speak, of the axiom of choice in mathematics, and like everybody'd been using it for so long, and they didn't realize until some guy had actually proved it. They were all just doing it instinctively, you know.
Yep. Yeah, and children instinctively acquire math at a very early age when they deal with objects. You know, more than one object, and when they see 3 cookies, right? They know what that is, so they intuitively know 3 cookies. That's where it all comes from. It comes from the world. So,
we girls obsessed
Well, I mean,
with
it's an obvious name, but the additive axiom is, of course, the one which we don't teach people, but of course, it just holds to be true, and it just says that you consecutively adding 1 gives you higher numbers, and that's all you need to know. So this is nonsense. But anyway, carry on.
And if your heart is honest enough, it is a self-evident truth when you look at the world around you that there must be a higher being, there must be a God.
Poisoning the well.
yeah.
Your heart is honest. In other words, you're a liar if you don't agree with me.
Yeah. Well, and back to, can't you see the invisible things? And you can attribute all these invisible things to all kinds of things. It doesn't necessarily, again, as Hitchens always famously said, it doesn't get you to your God. Right?
Even when I used to do acid, I still couldn't see invisible things.
Yeah, I tried to.
I
laughed a lot, but
I gave it a college try, as you'd say in America.
Yeah, people see all kind of stuff and everything, and I was just like, "Oh, that's cool," and I was just laughing. So.
You know, this whole thing that he's talking about, this faith thing and belief, and this being able to see it, it's based on a neuroscientific fact about the human brain. Or it isn't exactly a fact, but it's a field we have to study. And like, I'm 74 years old. I've done 100 acid trips. I've done 200 mushroom trips. I've had a spiritual experience without any drugs. I know what he's talking about. It's a feeling you get when you give up. And we all have little mini versions of it. Like when you're really tired and you finally crash into your chair, you have this, you sigh and you kind of give up. And that's what they're talking about. They're talking about a feeling that humans have because we are juice squirter based emotion machines, right? And there's this feeling you get when you kind of just give up and say, "Oh hell, I don't want to think about it anymore. Just I'll just go with what you're saying." And it's really significant because it can actually make you happy for a while, basically, if you just give up and say,
bliss.
Whatever. Huh? Yeah, bliss.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, there's something, but it's just one of the emotions that we feel all of the time. It's just that you feel it to a great degree. If you reach a point in your life, like this guy, like if he got arrested for, I don't know, child molesting and whatever, and he finally came to Jesus, he would have this moment, right? Like, now I know, I see the light, that sort of shit. That seeing the light thing is something that we need to study because it has a lot to do with recovering from addiction and a bunch of other stuff. And it has a lot to do with being happy. But that's all they're appealing to with this bullshit. You just got to believe.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it works the same way if you go to a crystal store and buy a talisman and say, "Oh, this is it. This is my thing," and you pour your soul into it, and you'll get this good feeling. They're just a way of getting high.
It seems that Russell Brand was setting himself up for a get out of jail free card too.
Oh, he's fucked. Like they just when I was my young days and this and all, bless God. He's a.
He was running around with all the Christians. He got baptized and everything. And I think last week here, he was formally charged.
Yeah, charged with rape, right?
Rumors have been rolling around that he doesn't behave.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's good now though because he got baptized.
Jesus.
It's all washed away. It's all good. Right?
Yep.
He must be there. So it is not an intellectual argument. In fact, if you go to Psalm 19, if you want to flip over there,
Oh shit.
Psalm chapter
Oh, no.
19.
We'll take
I bet
something
so.
else out of context
Trying
in
to
the
be
Bible.
in teaching mode and not preaching mode, so I'll be calm and relaxed, and I'm sure I'll blow my fuse somewhere. Psalm chapter 19.
Blow is what?
Psalm chapter 19.
His fuse.
Oh yeah,
Scary,
I wasn't.
man.
I'm loving the Bible that much. It just might blow my load here. It's just great.
And why has he got to look this stuff up? They
Yeah.
read this thing all the time. I mean, a lot of these folks, they just know these verses. And
I mean, how many
Other
books has he
times-
got to study, for goodness sake?
yeah, he's flipping around like crazy trying to look up the
Oh,
page.
there was only one.
Weren't you prepared? I mean, you could have made a note, put a bookmark.
In fact, the psalmist declares that everything we see is bearing witness to the existence of God all the time.
Yay! There it is. There it is, Mike.
There you
Yeah.
go.
The trees.
That's it.
The trees.
Everything.
It's the
everything.
trees.
Everything.
It's all a watch. It's all a watch.
I've had those moments.
I think we're going to be stuck on trees.
Yeah, I think
Psalm
we
9.
should be.
Yeah,
I think we should be.
lots of trees. Trees are all
You know-
right.
You know what
They
grows
give us
under trees, don't
oxygen
you?
and
You know what grows under trees? Mushrooms.
Mushrooms. Yeah.
Oh,
There you
Mike.
go. Yeah. Oh,
you
yeah.
got- and you got a fan in the chat, John Hudson's out there. He'd like
Really?
he'd like to hook up with you, Mike. You guys have a good time.
19 says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Right?
Neither
The Bible
of
talks
which
about,
are real.
when I consider thy heavens.
Yeah, Robbie, we get believers come through. We even had one come on week before last. We gave him a free shot to convince us. And,
No, I was just wondering.
everybody's welcome here. Believers are welcome here. I know a few believers I invite by, and a lot of you know SJ. SJ has a channel. SJ often stops by and says hello. And
Thompson.
I don't know how long she listens for, but she may
Oh, you
stop
feel
by.
I bet you that makes you feel really blessed.
I'm so blessed. Yeah.
So blessed. I wouldn't mind having an argument with her. I tried a couple of times, but a discussion with her. I tried a couple of times. She never was interested.
Yeah, she. You don't want to push it too much because she'll get kind of upset and leave. So, yeah, you have to really be polite.
Treat her with kid gloves.
Yeah, I went on a stream with her and a priest, and we all had a great talk. So just you gotta just be in the question and answer mode. You know what I mean, and just leave it there because she doesn't want to have to get too defensive and all that kind of stuff. She believes and she believes. So you gotta respect it, so to speak, in the conversation that the believer is the
Oh
believer.
yeah, I deal with
You
a
know
lot
what
of
I mean?
people that believe. Yeah,
But
well, I'm not
we're-
that bashy sort of guy.
yeah, everybody's welcome here. We get the what is it? Just blew through here. We get the Wiccan folks through here too. The Celtic Spirits Coven comes through here too often and drops us some words of wisdom. So what do we get? The Atheist Church is having another sermon making fun of the other tribe.
Yes, sir.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's not
We
the
don't
other
mean
tribe.
no harm. We don't mean
We're
no
not making-
harm.
We're not making fun of the tribe. We're making fun of the ideas that the tribe have.
Yeah, and again, it's nothing personal against this guy. I don't know this guy, but some of the stuff he says, might invoke some humor, and maybe it was intentional, right? Maybe he's just trying to make sure we have a good time.
The work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars, which thou hast ordained. What is man? Nobody muses anymore. We just amuse ourselves. We're so
What?
Oh, see,
What?
we're supposed to amuse ourselves. What did I just see? I have the psyche power going
Fucking tw-
with Patrick here. I mean, I am so in tune with Patrick. I say something and it comes right out of his mouth. There it is.
So busy looking down at the stuff man made, people don't look up anymore at the things God made. Because if you took some time, if you ever gone camping, it's wonderful. You go out there and you just stare up at that night sky and you're like, wow, it's humbling. It does something to your soul. Verse 2.
Okay.
Well, I
All right.
think it's time for our Peter Atkins moment, Simos. If this is the look at the universe and all the stuff that's made out there, and Peter Atkins says it seems to be made of a lot of rocks. So
Yeah, it does.
God
Yeah,
likes God likes rocks.
If you want to know how stars work, then it's easy. We just explained to you how a telescope works, right? That's how we know what's happening in the stars. It's perfectly natural explanations for it.
And
No
long
code
before,
required. And the
long
fact
before
that
I
he
was-
just wants to hang on a minute. The fact he just wants to go out, sit by a campfire, look up at the stars, and have a beer. What does that show, Dave? Shows a lazy mind.
Peter Atkins.
he's kind of this straw man here about how people who don't believe in God or maybe who aren't godly enough don't look up at the sky and appreciate and take wonder at the stars and the sky. I did that before I was a Christian. I've done it more since I was a Christian. I'm always trying to, instill in my grandsons, hey, look at those stars. That's amazing. Look how great that is. And I'm always encouraging them to stop and, look at the sky and see what birds are up in there and things like that. That's just what you do when you appreciate nature and appreciate the one life, the one limited life that you do have.
And I love that stuff. Many times, that you have the meteor showers or something, and 3 o'clock in the morning, wake the boys up and go out there and lay on the picnic table or the hood of the car or whatever and check out the
used to do that.
meteors, or when they say the space station's going overhead, we're out in the street there watching. Yeah, it goes over and it's like, man, that's just amazing that they put that up there and it's up in space and everything. It's just, and then the moon and the eclipse that we just had and all those things, and it's like wow. I love saying wow.
And are they really saying that only they, Christians with the Holy Spirit and the extra Jesus and everything, can appreciate stars and the skies and the trees, the green grass in spring? I think somebody thinks a little too much highly of themselves, and maybe they're a little cultishly delusional.
Yeah, but I don't think they're really appreciating it. They're looking at it and saying, "Oh, the glory of God." They're not looking at the goddamn stars. The stars are incredible, but they're saying, "Oh, look what God did. God did it." It's like everything.
It's a little demeaning, like Scott said. That
it is.
We can't go out. Mike loves going out for hikes in the woods and everything. He has a good time.
Michael looks at trees every day.
As somebody said, it's a poor poet that looks at the stars and doesn't think that they can give even better poetry with an understanding of how they work and how they've come to produce the earth and nature and everything, how it's come to produce life. And if you think all of that information is just pointless and it doesn't add to the poet's appreciation, then I don't know what you know about appreciation and art. Because if you think all you've got to do is just open your eyes, look up and go, that's as much as I need to take in to understand the entire beauty of this universe, then you're just deluding yourself, as you say.
And not to mention, the Vatican has had a observatory for a long time, right? They didn't have a problem looking out there while being believers. So there's also the argument that, I'm religious, I just throw my hands in the air and just accept things. And it's like, no, plenty of Christians have done a lot of science trying to figure out things while still being believers. they're still getting answers to these questions.
Day unto day uttereth speech. The fact that this thing continues with some kind of uniformity and system just suggests, hey, Raphael, grab one of these. Take your time. Take your time. You got it. It just testifies that the Lord is there. And night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice, the testimony of nature, is not heard. Their line is gone out through all the earth, even the pygmy in the bush, even the sophisticated businessman in the metropolis. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun. So everywhere you look, the existence of God is there.
What did he just say about pygmies in the bush compared to the sophisticated businessman? Well, you racist mother.
I didn't know the sophisticated businessman in the metropolis was in the Bible. What verse is that?
He's like, he must have just watched some 1950s Disney cartoons. Pygmy in the bush.
Yeah, what even is a god? Well, so far, deconverted man, it seems to be trees. No mention of lobsters yet. Sorry.
Or the heavens. So it's difficult to
or
say.
a bunch of rocks. Yeah.
He's answering the how do we know, except he's just saying because we know. That's his answer to how do we know.
By the way, has anybody noticed
deconverted
the poster in the background there, the purple poster saying proud of our safe and bully-free school?
Yeah, we were talking about when you weren't paying attention, Scott.
Yeah, I was typing and doing word searches. So yeah, I feel bad about that. But did you mention how they teach all their children in their schools or Sunday schools? I'm assuming they have a private school too. That if you don't turn your heart to Jesus and give your life to Jesus, you're going to burn in hell. And they're not a bully-free school, and they consider themselves a bully-free school.
Irony.
Yeah, that just kind of stuck out. And I apologize once again if y'all covered all this before.
That's right. Geo Sam, Brainless said something that you might want to join sometime. I did drop you a link in your email, so if you want to stop by, you can join us. So check your email.
But I want to say, if they really do make an effort to handle bullying in their school, then good for them.
Yeah,
I wish schools would do that, because it ain't that damn hard to keep kids from killing each other when they're right in front of you.
Yeah, so, but never mind. I was going to say something like, if you have an LGBTQ kid,
yeah, right,
they're not going to protect them. In fact, they're probably going to kick them out or find a reason to kick them out. So.
I don't know. To be fair, my wee girl goes to a very inclusive school, and like, her mother's insisting at the minute that she goes through Catholicism and stuff and her confirmation and all that. But at the same time, a few weeks ago, my wee girl said to me, "Daddy, did you know that people can have two mummies?" You know, the school itself is very inclusive. As I say, it's different over here in the UK as it is in America.
That's good to
America fucked itself up.
Yeah, there's a law against them saying that now in school. So
we just had a teacher that was fired because they used a child's preferred name, which also opens up a whole can of worms of what about nicknames and everything else, right?
Yeah. And in the UK, we had a teacher that, they're promoting it as he wouldn't use. He got banned, I think, or sent on temporary suspension because he used the dead name, and then he was banned from the school, because of it. But then he came back to the school and was a whole other thing. But the other thing was based on the fact that he wasn't allowed in that area, not because of that, and they exaggerated it more. But again, the UK being different, we have a limited respect, from a law's point of view.
Yeah.
Good to see a demon orb. Yeah, Geo Sam, if you want some good tips on how to use GIMP, make sure you go over and check out Geo Sam.
So interestingly enough, he mentioned 27 earlier, which was Newton's predicted date of the rapture. So what are we looking at here? Newton. There you go. I knew it was when he said it first time.
It's come full circle.
Newton, of course, was a Unitarian, by the way.
No worries, Sam. Yeah, if you ever want to stop in, just give me a shout in the chat, and I'll get you a link in your email. Okay.
Yeah, so
Always welcome. You're always welcome.
Newton was a Unitarian. He would be called a heretic by this man, and not a Christian, of course. He didn't believe that Jesus was the Son of God.
I just
Anyway,
did a video on Thomas Paine too.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Talking about that he was an atheist that had a deathbed conversion, and lo and behold, there's documented over a dozen witnesses that were at his deathbed. Even one of his enemies, politically or literally or literarily,
He had a fair number at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, and they said no, it didn't happen. So
I'd recommend watching Michael Grando, and maybe getting him on would always be open to history of science and stuff like that. There, it's very, very good.
Okay.
So let's hear.
He was a really smart guy.
Heretic.
Probably smarter than most of the guys we got out today. Said, in the absence of any other proof, the thumb alone would convince me of God's existence.
I mean, come on now.
Now it's your thumb. Deconverted man, it's the thumb now. We've moved on from the trees. So now it's your thumb. Opposable thumbs are awesome, but, it's pretty evident in evolution. And other species have opposable thumbs too, right? So
Look at the thumbs. I love it.
Everybody give a thumbs up in the chat out there.
How do you explain the great
thumbs.
apes? How does he explain then the great apes that also have thumbprints?
Yeah.
And
I saw-
opposable thumbs. I mean, come on now.
I think it was an orangutan. They gave it a saw, and it figured it out, and it was cutting stuff up into pieces with it.
I bet.
Pretty impressive. Now, of course, they'll say, yeah, but it can't make a saw. Blah, blah. And it's like, well, most of us can't either. We rely on a big infrastructure, of people that make us saws. But yeah, it was pretty neat to see. Go ahead, Rainless.
Yeah, fall and starting to get really, really tired, so I better go to sleep. I'm getting cold. So.
Okay, Brainless.
Thanks for having me, and
good to see you, man.
Fun ripping him apart.
Good night, Brainless. Good night, Brainless.
See you later, Brainless.
You.
And yeah, you can find Brainless over there with Slim Cyborg hanging out usually. Brainless has an on-call schedule, so sometimes you'll see a lot of Brainless, and sometimes you don't see so much of Brainless. But we appreciate when Brainless stops by, and Brainless is when Brainless is available over with Slim Cyborg usually, who has a weekly show. That link is in the description, and don't forget, check out all those links down in the description. Like, subscribe, hit the like and subscribe on my channel. Check out the links down below for merch links, discount code. Make sure you go over to Carrie Ann Chrysler's new page. Link is in the description. Subscribe over there. And as well as the video we're covering is always down below in the description too.
Just the fact that you got like this design digit that helps you do so many things, even that alone. But so if you go back to Romans chapter 1, I guess I'm saying that to just say it's not an intellectual argument. Because if you just had an honest heart, you would see God everywhere. And you'd see God's handiwork everywhere.
Always in the well.
Yeah, but this again, it doesn't explain anything though. There's no explanatory power. What science does is it gives an answer to a question with explanatory power. Sure, you can say anything. God did it. I just saw a short the other day where the guy said, well, it doesn't matter if it's evolution, Big Bang, all that. It's still God did it. And it's like, but see, you're using the scientific explanations of evolution and cosmology and physics and all this stuff. And then you're saying God did it, right? And it's like, well, again, this is adding on something totally unnecessary because you already have the explanation. You just kind of said, well, it looks like science already has these explanations. civilizations, yes, with its planetary power. And again, if you want to believe in a God and you're going to have an afterlife and all that kind of stuff, we'll probably have a show on an afterlife topic. Probably, it's probably be an interesting topic. We'll have to find something on that. But other than that, and what does he have up on the screen here? He's got a scientist up on the screen, right? They have a lot of science information. Even if they're discounting it, they're using a lot of the information. And then they're just saying, well, God did it, and they're discounting all of that. At the same time, we can point out they're using the internet and all kind of modern technology to make this video. And that science seems to be all good and well, right?
I mean, this is another one of the things which I find difficult, not completely unreasonable, but difficult, is that when they say that everything attests to God's power because God did everything, then of course you're just instantly saying, that miracles don't happen. Everything's a miracle. In which case, well, what's so special about Jesus? I mean,
Yeah.
what's so special about Jesus being resurrected or a virgin birth? Nothing special, because God did everything. So it's just another thing that God did. It kind of demeans, I think, the sacrilegious part of the faith, which is why they have faith. One of the reasons Christians say, "Oh, I have faith," is because there are these things that they don't know how to believe. There's no evidence, like the guy said. There's no reason. There's no evidence. They just have a deep intuition or a feeling that these things are true, and therefore they take them to be true on faith. But those are exactly the things, right, which they're saying God did special. And yet this guy's sitting here and go, well, everything's special.
Our friend
makes
Rebecca
makes no sense.
Our friend Rebecca over at the Bread of Life channel before said that if she's presented with scientific evidence or her gut feeling, she's going to go with her gut feeling.
There you go. She said to me, I had a good conversation, well, a few actually with her, and she said to me once, look, I believe this on faith. And I just went, okay, well, that's kind of the end of the conversation from me then. Because, and that's fair enough. If you want to say you believe something on faith, well, I don't need to convince you otherwise.
We were talking about that if the creationists would just say they just believe these things on faith, it's a miracle, it's God, okay, right? But they try to, like he's doing, well, I'm going to pick and choose things from science, and, and well, no, now see, you're not playing fair. If you're just going to say it's all magic, you can stay over on that side. But when you're trying to cross it over, then it becomes disinformation. And then
that's exactly right.
That's when we have a problem with it.
It really is disinformation, because another one of these arguments, especially with the creationists, of course, is that, look, the Earth is intelligently designed. The universe is intelligently designed, right? And the example they usually give, of course, is the watch on the beach, right? Mm-hmm. But, of course, if everything is intelligently designed, there's no difference between a watch and a grain of sand. You can't tell.
Nope.
So that's not evidence anymore,
Nope.
And so they want some things to be special. They want some things to be sacred. And that gives them the feeling that they're right. And that's fair enough. I understand that we've all got hopes, dreams, beliefs. We've all read like books when we were kids and thought, oh, this is amazing. I wish this was true. I wish I could conjure, like, I don't know, whatever it is. I wish I could fly or be invisible or any of these other things, right? But at some point, we understand that we're going to die. We're not going to live forever, right? And that's how life is. We don't have the ability to be invisible. We can't fly, So you got to grow up.
I've got my mother after a discussion to admit that the reason basically that she prays, like my mum wouldn't be one that would pray every night or anything like that. She's not on her knees and this and the other. But anytime I've ever heard my mother describe that, I did a prayer, this, that, and the other, it's basically because the thing to help, the thing to do is outside of her power. She can't actually help in any way. There's nothing she can do. It's a sickness over this other side of the world. And the reason that she prays is it makes her feel better, gives her that, she's done something. She would do something if she physically could or mentally could, but because it's outside of her control, it gives her that peace of mind that she's done something,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Lazy minds again, I'm afraid. That's big lazy minds.
To be fair, lazy statement. Definitely not a lazy mind. I'm telling poor Granny you said that. She'd kick your ass, Amos.
Sure. Well, that's what it is. When
Oh,
you pray
and once
something,
again, though, we
you
don't
say, "Well, I can't do anything, so I'm going to pray." I mean,
Yeah, well,
there you go.
no,
You've
it's-
given up.
yeah.
You've literally given up at that point.
Well, it's there is the argument of you can pray, but
And there's
you can
there's
also
very
pray
good
while
there's
people
very
are
good.
doing things.
Sorry, Dave.
to
Sorry,
dig
Dave.
it out.
There are very good psychological explanations as to why people do that kind of thing, right? But they are
Mhm.
psychological explanations. They're perfectly natural.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like it shocks me in that one thing that my mother is a very intelligent woman in a lot of other things.
Sure.
And on that one thing, she just accepts it,
Sure. And like most of us will just go, okay, well, I know this is some kind of psychological reinforcement, because I'm a fragile human being. And most people just accept that and get on with it.
My parents weren't real devout or anything. I've said before, we went to church, what you call culturally. It never really got mentioned at home that much or anything other than get ready for church, right? But every once in a while, I would say something, especially as I got older, in the last few years. And she would give me a look every once in a while and use my whole name and say, David. And it's like, so there's still that thing in her head that, somebody's listening to what she's saying upstairs, right?
My dad went to church every time somebody died.
Yeah.
And again, I've got no problem with people going to church for funerals and stuff. Funerals are for the living, right?
Oh, I took the ribbing. A friend of mine passed, and they had the full mass and everything, Catholic and everything.
Yeah,
I went and I was sitting there, and afterwards, some of the old crew came up and they're like, "Hey, you get hit by a bolt of lightning or nothing, And I'm like,
thanks for coming by,
Yeah, I came through unscathed,
That's what I mean. It's the funerals are for the living, right? If you've got
That's
people
what we did,
then you go to them and you show that you've showed respect for the person's life. That's
we
cool.
we had the little get together afterwards, and they were passing the microphone around. People were telling stories and everything.
Yeah. That's the best part of it.
We had a lock-in for my nannies.
Oh.
Like, we literally went to my uncle's local pub where he does for the football team and stuff, so he's quite respected there. But they did a lock-in till 3 a.m. for us. 12 of us, and we were like, no, we're not leaving. Just close the doors, we're staying. That was after, obviously, the funeral, but
we just went to a funeral, me and my sons, and they came up with a really great. They have a lot of respect for they came up with this idea that for my funeral they're going to close the coffin, and then they're going to prop me up in one of the stalls in the bathroom with the door unlocked with my pants down.
one of our snakes passed away, and I suggested to the daughter a Viking funeral in the local river that we would go down and jump in, and she broke down. She was like, no, I don't want to set fire to Isabella. No. She got very panicky about it. We ended up burying it in the field across the road under a tree. And I'm feeling lazy, to be fair. I'm digging a freaking hole for a dead snake. We dig the hole, and I've sort of taken a clump off, a lump at the top, and I've dug the hole down. And I said to her to go and get the clump of grass so we can put it on the top and nobody will see it and stuff. And as she's walking away, I'm putting the shoebox in and it doesn't fit. I'm sort of pushing it down with my foot just as she starts to come back. And she's like, I'm just making sure she fits in the hole. Okay, don't stop. I'm sorry. But she had an awful 2 weeks of pets. The snake passed away on the Friday. Then she lost one of her hamsters on the Monday. And then the week after, on the Tuesday, the other hamster died.
You got to
This
get
is
more
the-
reliable pets and hamsters and snakes, man.
The snake, to be fair, yeah. Anyway, but
Yeah.
the hamsters, they were 3 years old. They were going to die anyway, so a year
Yeah,
and a half.
they're old when they're 3 years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got Randy in the chat saying hello to everybody. Hello, Randy.
Hi,
Yeah,
Randy. Hi, Randy.
But in Romans 1:28, and Eddie Keeley pointed that verse out to me and always makes a point to point it out, and it's a good point. So you get the point. Romans 1:28 says, and it's talking about the degradation of man and the de-evolution of man, and it's kind of like a description of
Whoa,
2025.
whoa. The de-evolution of man?
I thought Mike would hit on that one.
What? I'm joking on my coffee.
We know what he
I'm trying-
means, but the fall of man, okay, that's what he's referring to.
What is
but
he talking? Okay,
Oh
what does
my
it say
God.
in Romans 1:28? Did not like to retain God in their knowledge. God gave them over a reprobate mind. What is he talking about?
He's
What is he
talking nonsense. Of course he is.
That's if you're like, well, I don't know if I believe in God, then God just says, okay, you're out. Doesn't even try to convince you or anything else because he
Wait a
wants
minute.
a relationship with you.
What does Romans 1:28 actually say? What do we got here? God gives people over to a reprobate mind because they did not see fit to acknowledge him. That's de-evolution. So is that why he thinks? That's why he thinks that there are more and more atheists, because we're de-evolving.
Randy's
Nice.
putting genetic entropy on his bingo card.
Yeah, Randy. That's it.
Oh, they have been delivered to a mind that is no longer capable of thinking rightly about God or doing what is morally good.
That's like when God hardens your heart, like he did with Pharaoh, right? So if Pharaoh wanted to change his mind,
Yeah,
he
God
couldn't
hardened my
because God is forcing you to not be able to change your mind.
I just sit around all day hating on God. I just hate on him all day.
Everybody needs a hobby, Mike.
Yeah, so much.
Yeah, I
for
get up
free
in the
will, right?
morning and hate on God.
Ask me. It says, and even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge. So the atheism that abounds is not a head issue, it's a heart issue. They don't like it. I don't like a holy
Yeah,
God.
of course,
My
because
self-right-
everybody
No,
knows
no.
medically that when you like
don't
something,
like it.
your heart is the one that goes, oh, yeah, that's what I want.
My problem with Christianity is not a true and just and holy or God or whatever, a truly fair and just God. I think that that's a fair belief to have. You know what I mean? That there isn't often justice in this life, but someday there will be, right? However, as Mike and I learned, and where Mike and I really started hanging out with each other, was in the group. What was it? The group, the
Rebecca.
the private group, and they had a lot of hard luck cases that are all going to heaven. And one of them I coined Mr. Stabby Stabby, who loved to stabby peoples, and
Yeah.
he even stabby peoples in jail, the guards and everything, in a Minecraft game. This person gets to go to heaven. And somebody earlier was talking about Jeffrey. That everybody knows what Jeffrey did.
Yep.
Had some snacks afterwards, right? And he's saved, and he's in heaven. And I just saw a meme recently going around where Jesus is talking to the little girl up in the clouds and saying, there's the person that took out your whole family. Why don't you go over there and say hello?
Yeah.
They got saved. So my big issue with Christianity is the get out of jail free card. I have less of a problem with a religion that puts you truly on a balance against your life, and it doesn't matter which religion you believed or anything else. If you were a good person, you're in, and I think that's the only true justice.
I asked a Christian that the other day, a fella called Sandman. Even though I admitted to living my life as if God doesn't exist, because I don't actually know, but don't fear any consequences. If I live my life in what could be defined as, a good life, someone may say Christian life, be nice to your neighbor and stuff like that and make quotes like that. When I get to the pearly gates, is the only thing that stops me going into heaven is the fact that I didn't know for sure that if this thing existed, do they judge me on my works? Like, I've been a good person, and because I wasn't convinced, do I then have to go to hell?
Yeah, well, it says in Romans that the mind that finds God worthless becomes worthless itself. The rejecting mind becomes a rejected mind, and thereby becomes spiritually depraved, worthless and useless.
It's not rejected. It's just I'm not convinced,
Right. Yeah, this Romans passage is a little bit harsh. Was that Romans that he was talking about? Or was that something else? Did he say Romans 128?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, that's one of the
Romans.
things he said.
And then he went into the Psalms.
I'm finding like 5 different versions of that damn verse. Is what the hell?
You need to look harder. There's more Bibles than that.
Oh
Yeah, there are multiple English translations. So
Okay, I'm looking at the NIV, and now let's see what else we got here. New Catholic
Oh,
Bible.
you should have looked at the KJV. You're in the wrong one to start with. Go straight to
Mike,
the KJV.
You know it's KJV. You're going to get Brad on you, If you
Well, how about the new KJV? Is it that one? Okay,
no, that's
the
KJV.
You need the authorized KJV, the one that God
version, AV.
Okay, like how come it isn't? Okay, that's pretty much the same.
It has now turned into a fucking Bible atheist Bible study. We're arguing over which Bible.
You could try the New Revised Standard Version, updated, whatever.
I've got a lot of Bibles. I collect them, so to speak. So I've got, lots of Bibles around the house. It freaks me out. My wee girl actually asked me not too long ago, why do you have so many Bibles if you don't really believe in God?
Well, because I believe in debunking bullshit from Christians who misuse the Bible. That's why.
You see, I don't do that. Yeah. I would rather lead her down the path of how to think than rather tell her what to think, because her mother would be a cultural Catholic. Her grandmother's a practicing Catholic. She lives with these people. And yeah, as I say, she's going through Catholicism at the time, things that they have to at this age for respect of her mother and stuff.
Right.
That's why I tell my sons, like, well, hey, you can look. I got right over here. I got a Bible. I got a Quran. I got Mormon. I got Confucius. I got the teachings of Buddha.
She's going to figure this
through the stack of books, right? Yeah, absolutely.
You give them the tools. You teach them how to think. We argued one day in the car and the whole way home that I insisted that the sky was purple, just to slam home the point that she could look outside and see and have physical evidence, and this sort of idea. And I don't know, don't start me on my daughter, but I am going to leave soon enough. I'm going to run away. But yeah, no, if she makes to her version a logical argument, she can get sweeties to a point, if you know what I mean. Like if she can make a cogent argument, she gets rewarded for that. She doesn't get rewarded for being an asshole or a cocky cunt or anything like that. If you make a good argument, you get a prize. If you can think of an animal that daddy's never found of as well, that's another thing we're doing at the minute, is with animals, is find an animal that daddy doesn't know about, you get a prize.
There you go.
Righteousness doesn't like the vicarious atonement of Christ. I don't like the judgment of hell. And because man doesn't like it, much like robbers don't like policemen.
Well, the idea of ice cream or broken glass, again, is silly, too. It's like, well, maybe people just like broken glass. It's like, it's ridiculous, right? It's like, no, of course everybody wants ice cream. Everybody wants heaven. Everybody wants to go see their grandma and their puppies and all that kind of stuff. Of course, this is always so silly when I hear it, Well, don't you want to go to heaven? And it's like, well, if I die and I have the choice, probably, right? I mean, I don't know what
I'd rather go and see where most of my friends are. So.
Yeah, well, there's a point to that too, right? But it always sets up. Yeah, do you want ice cream or broken glass, right? well, I'll take the ice cream. Well, see, you know, and that doesn't mean that I have to believe. And even again, if I want to believe, you still haven't set up why I should believe in your religion. It's always the hardest argument. It's like, again, I can understand why people want to believe in God and an afterlife and all those things, but then you still don't have any clue which one's right, or if there even is one, or if it's just that individual, you know. Maybe your energy just goes on in some unique thing, and that's it. And whatever you become or do not become, so be it. Either way, there's no evidence of either.
Sinful man doesn't like accountability to a holy God, and so he has conveniently made him disappear.
And as I said, I don't have any problem answering for myself. I think Christians have a problem answering for themselves. And I often point out, I think Christianity in a way was started for people that couldn't get into the afterlives in other religions, where you actually are measured by your works and against your life on a balance. Christianity is basically a free pass, and almost anything that you've done can be forgiven, even being awful almost your entire life.
But the root of atheism, and we'll see this in a little bit, is quite often an emotional bias, not an intellectual argument. There is a veil on their heart and over their eyes that causes them not to see what you see so easily. So, but if we're supposed to be ready to give an answer, how do we deal with this popular question? I'm going to show you today in the first session, and then we'll take a break, but we'll show you a few ways to approach the issue that's probably going to do more to strengthen your faith and stop their mouths. But a lot of this is going to strengthen your faith.
Yeah, see, this is where he's getting
mouths.
He's getting a little fired up. That's right. He's going to stop our
mouths.
mouths.
Stop our mouths.
It's starting to show a little bit, isn't it?
Give it your best shot, asshole.
Here we go. Bring it on. Bring it on.
And even though you might not see the atheist get down on his knees and say, "Thank you, Jesus."
Nope, you won't see that.
Not usually, but I mean,
Not usually.
They converted and weren't an atheist anymore. I don't think you're going to see any atheists doing it.
You will have an answer, and that's what we'll get into today. So,
well, we've been waiting, Patrick. I mean, we're halfway through Saturday Night at the Atheist here, and you're just getting to it.
we're going to start with some arguments. Right, we're going to do 3 arguments in the first session and 1 argument in the second session.
So, can I just say, arguments are logical forms of reason. Okay?
Yeah.
Just to point that out, it's one of the things he said you can't do at the very first sentence. So, here we are, back to the usual hypocrisy when it comes to, but my reason's different. My reason's based on God. It's this kind of fucking precept bollocks that they all deny that they use because they know they're shitty arguments and they know it's circular, but at the same time they can't resist it.
And that's what he said earlier about something about forget the evolution or all this kind of stuff. You're not going to convince him with that, and then he's pulling scientists up on the screen.
Can't use reason, can't use evidence, and here we go, reason. That's what arguments are. So it's just the hypocrisy of it. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. It's just the kalam.
We'll start with something called, I'll give you some $5 words to make it sound like I went to college. All right, the cosmological argument, which
there you go.
A $5 word.
Simos has got the vibes going too. He's in tune. He knew it was.
I'm all over this like a
you gotta pay. You gotta pay $5 for that word.
Yeah.
I buy a vowel.
Is commonly just called the argument from cause. All right.
Oh, okay. It's even worse.
It basically kind of looks back and says, why is the universe here? Right. Now, the cosmological.
And as Peter Atkins would say, that's the wrong question. It's not why, it's how.
Yeah.
Very true.
Deconverted man convinced me it was a lobster farting, so I'm going with that.
Yeah, yeah.
I have read the Laud, and the Laud is true because it says it's true. And
it's a lot more convincing when you hear Dave reading it.
That's right. And
I think also he's going to say something. I mean, he probably would avoid this completely, but of course, a common objection is that there's no logical inconsistency with an infinite regress. Now, that may not be a great argument, but it just shows that there's another option, right? So this dilemma he's going to put up now, this dichotomy, I should say, is a false dichotomy, and that's the point of saying, look, here's an infinite regress. If he does address the infinite regress, I want you just to pick out how he gets around it, which word he says that says it can't be that, because that's always very interesting to me when somebody makes this argument from change. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that, I'm putting the link in the chat. And that, let's see here.
I think he just hates the eternal universe. He just doesn't want to accept the universe into his heart. So he has to come up with a cause for it. So he just wants to hate, and he hates the universe. He hates naturalism. That's his problem.
Everybody that wants to give Laud a shot, I narrated Dan Green's book on my channel, and check it out. Few people have told me it's a good listen to in the evening, and puts them in the mode to go to sleep. Whatever works, it works by me.
It puts you to sleep. That's a good go.
I've put a couple people to sleep on the streams. Everybody says it's my voice. It's very soothing, and so if you need a soothing voice and some humor, check out The Lobsterist on my channel.
We got a left-handed
Jedi. Thumbs up to Deconverted Man for putting it together and letting me narrate it.
If I can take this opportunity, man, Dave, I want to say thank you. I'm going to bounce for a wee while. I'm going to host a live stream and see if we can start some arguments with some people. But I want to say thank you for having me on. And good to talk to you, Mike, and Simon specifically. I haven't talked to you the ages, and not to punch that time, but I miss these fuckers,
I should stop over more often, so I don't know.
Yeah. I just do this for fun now. There's no real regular stream except a Saturday night sort of iffish. And I'll call by, man. You see, the thing with the algorithm now is if I don't go to your channel for a week and a half, it stops promoting me when you go live. I've got my main account is subscribed to something like 2,000 channels. It's
so do you get believers over there that come on your live streams?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'd love to talk to one of them.
Yeah, see, I would spend a lot. To be fair, I would spend more of my internet time when I'm not live on Christian channels than I would on the atheist channels, because we all sort of agree on that sort of thing, and it's more interesting to talk to crazy weirdos. Simos, look up Double O. Was talking to him the other day in Brojos. Have you met him before?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting 90 minutes.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah.
Was that on your channel?
No, that was on Brojo's last Saturday. Brojo went live about something similar to this, went live just before I went live, just as a random one. I joined his and then ended up talking to I don't know, he's a flat earther, anti-vaxxer, no space, no moon, no satellites, they're helium balloons in the sky. He had a coma after a car accident. He woke up in a new dimension and his mum and family wasn't the same. That was all in 90 minutes, dude. It was...
Wow. So
what's
he's
that
a nice
condition
guy.
where people...
He is a nice guy, though. Just let me throw that in.
Yes.
No.
He's
not aggressive. He's not... You know what I mean? He's reasonable to talk to.
Did you say he thought his family wasn't his family?
When he different family. Same people, different universe.
He didn't use them words, but yes, that was the implication. Just to be clear, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth.
So it's not the one where he thinks they've been replaced by imposters?
Don't think so.
I specifically said pod people, and he was like, "No, they're not pod people."
Yeah, there's a part of your brain, your limbic system. If you damage it, you basically can't accept anything that you see as being what it is.
Well, that's
say,
what I
oh,
put
that's
across to him. I was like, dude, you're in a coma after a car
yes,
accident. There's a possibility your brain
your
rewired.
brain is
And,
damaged.
not to be fair or not to be rude, I mean, but, he'd had done things in his past and stuff like that. And if you'd done, like, I was trying to put across to him, dude, the accident was due to him falling asleep at the steering wheel. I was like, you've had this past, you've fallen asleep at the steering wheel. Would it be an option that your mum might also just be pissed off with you? Sick of your bullshit sort of thing. But,
Could be.
lots of different things. That's not the Mandela effect.
We want to thank you for stopping by, Robbie, and you're always welcome to stop by again.
It has taken so much of my willpower to keep my voice quiet and not overtalk everybody. It is so hard for me when I do this to not talk. So I appreciate you putting up with me, Dave. And yeah, thank you all for having me. Like,
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
yeah, definitely will do, man. If you're bored afterwards, I might still be streaming or whatever. Bounce over. Everybody's welcome. Subscribe, don't subscribe. Watch, don't watch. I don't know. Nobody on YouTube makes money. We do this for fun.
That's right. Link is in the description for Math Pig's channel, and along with everybody else's links that joins us and friends of the channel and all kind of stuff. So check that description below, and you'll find the links.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Talk to you all later. Bye.
Bye.
Argument basically goes like this. Here
Back
are
to
the
the
premise.
Back to the $5 whore. I mean, words.
Yeah, I had a good time over with Math Pig the other day, and that's why I invited him to come over here. We had a good time over there. And again, we were over there because Carrie Ann is starting up her channel. And make sure you hit that link in the description as well. Support Carrie Ann with her new endeavor. All right.
So I got some smartass that just replied to my comment on Sabor's channel, the crazy Muslim evolutionist. Yeah. He said, I bet I can make you say, I don't know 10 times in a row. And I bet I can make him say, I don't know 10 times in a row. Like, does he know how tall I am?
I can't remember what the name of the channel was, but there was a whole panel. It was a Muslim apologetics channel, and he was one of the ones that was on there. And of course, it's the same thing, and they'll throw back. Where did this come from? Where did that come from? Explain the universe. Explain
why is there a universe?
And it's like, take a class,
Why am I here?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Thanks, Robbie, for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Always good to have you.
And the conclusion of the cosmological argument, right? Everything that begins to exist has to have a cause. Premise one. The universe began to exist.
No, it didn't.
I mean, Einstein told
No, it didn't.
Yeah, he's going to go into that for a second.
us that. That's not like Bible. Einstein told us that.
I'm pretty sure Einstein didn't tell us that.
No,
Einstein held on to steady state, didn't he?
Yeah,
he was very reluctant to let go of it.
Well, yeah, there's some. Yeah, and Einstein's theory it only starts once the universe is in motion, so it doesn't say anything about a cause.
No matter how you cut it, there's no way that the universe began to exist. That just isn't how space-time happened. The expansion basically was an expansion of both space and time. And if you follow that down the rabbit hole, there's no beginning there. There is no time. Which is kind of what they're saying with their damn God. He's timeless, spaceless, whatever. Well, you could say the same thing about whatever it is that caused that expansion, basically, or whatever. And you can't even think of it as caused the expansion because it's weirder than that. And I wish they would just shut the fuck up about this. Jesus. And none of it makes any sense. Anyway, sorry. Well, I'm going to swear, Dave. You know me. These idiots.
Expansion theory of the universe told us that. I mean, even Big Bang cosmologists believe that there was a beginning to the universe. So
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
No,
No,
they
they don't. I think Grayson and them were just talking about it, and he was citing all kinds of people and papers and everything,
Yeah.
and not one of them said that.
Some do, some don't, I'm sure. Like most
Is
that
things,
on
there's a
Grayson's
variation
channel,
of
or-
ideas.
No, Deconverted
universe-
Man.
Okay, I'm
think.
gonna have to go watch that. That sounds interesting.
began to exist. So if everything that begins to exist has to have a cause, and the universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause.
Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
So what if it does?
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
And if they figure out what that cause is, you know who's going to do it? A physicist,
yeah,
not
exactly.
an apologist.
Anytime you work it out, let us know. Especially if we
That
can
is-
like, figure the mechanism out.
Yeah, bring it on. You know, it's a lot of hard work saving somebody else, and they can move on to other things. Steady state was coined by Frederick Hoyle.
Is the conclusion, and in a nutshell, that is the cosmological argument, the argument from cause. Now, if you go to Isaiah chapter
That is not the cosmological argument, by the way. Just to put that out. That's the Kalam, right? The cosmological argument, okay, is either by, I don't know, Aristotle or I guess Aquinas might have had one. Aquinas' 5 ways. And they're different, by the way. So
40,
he's
I want
just-
you to
he's
notice that
confused.
God,
He's just
Well-
confused here, that's all.
That's a given. It's the floor. You can only walk around on that floor for so long, and you get woozy.
God asked us to ask this question. Look at Isaiah chapter 40. Flip in your Bible a little bit here.
Okay.
Yes,
Isaiah
yes, Bree.
chapter 40, verse
Bree.
26.
Also,
Isaiah
Bree,
40.
could you, before I say that, Bree, if you could just message Dave with the details of that show that you want to do on Tuesday, I think it is Tuesday evening, then just message him, then he can stick it in chat so people can look it up.
Hey, the link for your upcoming show, Bree, drop it in the chat. You got a wrench. Hello, Native. How you doing? Simos said somebody your Tuesday show or something, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's what she said.
Verse 26. Isaiah 40, verse 26. This is a great point that God makes here. Isaiah 40, verse 26. Lift up your eyes on high. Right? Sometimes God's always telling you, look up. Stop looking down like a beast. Lift up your eyes on high, and behold,
does
who
that
hath
include
created
giraffes?
these things, that bringeth out their host by number.
What?
It's just
Does it include giraffes? Are they always
Man,
looking down?
I had my fill
Yeah.
of giraffes earlier. Who was it? Karisu, I think, was covering a Hovind thing, and he said giraffes don't have long necks so that they can eat leaves up high. They have long necks so that they can drink water down low.
Oh no.
He calleth them all by names, by the greatness of his might, for that he is strong in power, not one faileth. So there to me is a verse that lines up with this argument. God telling you, hey, look up and ask yourself, where'd all this stuff come from? That's essentially what the cosmological argument is about. Now,
No, it's not.
No, it's not. It's not really.
No, it's not.
Again, a science asks these questions and figures it out. It's these arguments are just basically to prove they're God somehow, because that the universe has to have a cause. Okay,
Well, I mean,
can
okay,
grant you it has to have a cause. Once again, you're going to the Hitchens problem of you still have a long way to go to prove a God, or it's your God.
Yeah, I mean, one of the issues, even if we grant all of that, one of the issues in this particular form of the argument that he's presenting, which is the Kalam, is that everything that begins to exist has a cause. Well, of course, what's the one thing he claims that didn't begin to exist? Okay, it's God.
Yep.
They've changed the wording for that very reason. Yeah.
That's just special pleading, right? If you're saying there is only one thing, right, which is the thing we're proving, right, which doesn't have this need for a cause, right, then that's special pleading. And if you could do that, special pleading, and think that that's perfectly valid, then of course we could do exactly the same thing by saying the universe always existed in some form.
Yeah, the argument used to be that,
there you go, eternal universe.
Yeah, the argument used to be worded something like everything has to have a creator or something like that. And then, of course, people fire back, well, that doesn't work with God, right? So then they changed it to everything that begins to exist, because, yes, they're excluding their God from that argument, and they're making an exception to the rule to make the rule work.
Exactly. It's just special pleading. That is a fallacy. So.
Does anybody consider seriously anymore the kind of the Lawrence Krauss argument that the universe was like a virtual particle, and those can pop in and out of existence without cause?
Yeah.
And so if it just pops into existence and then blows up, that's not really beginning to exist, because the universe just popped into existence. What does it mean to begin to exist? And I don't know that we've ever really focused on that much in the different communities. But what do they mean, and what are they going to stick to? Because that could be one of those words where if you press them on it, they'll have some sort of explanation, but then when they turn around and talk to their Christian friends, it'll be a totally different thing.
Yeah. I mean, begin is a difficult. It sounds temporal to me. It sounds like it's got some kind of temporal convenience already.
And of course, the other alternative is that there's always been something there,
and that might not necessarily be a problem for this argument. But it's just to say that you're now like filing down the number of possible answers to what could be a cause, right? So you're saying it has to be simultaneous. Well, we don't really have many examples of that, right? We have no cause. We don't have any examples of that, although there's some things happen in nature which seem to have no cause, right? Like radioactive decay, etc., etc. But to say they have, I don't agree with saying they have no cause. So, I mean, and again, another thing we touched on a few weeks ago, cause is a particularly difficult subject when it comes to physics. Anyway, it's something that we assume is there because that's how we notice regularity. But of course, things follow things. That's really what it's meant, right? And when you put cause in that kind of a notion, then things beginning don't make much sense.
No.
Right, so this whole language game that gets played on this subject is very difficult to tear apart, which is why, at the end of the day, we go to physicists for these answers.
And the thing is, what they do is they're making an intuitive mistake. Okay, they're thinking that space began to exist, right? Three-dimensional space was infinitesimally small. And then it started to expand so it began. They think it began. But when you think about infinitesimally small, there's no beginning for that. It keeps going. But to make matters worse, not just space, 3D space started right there or was infinitesimally small. Time itself was. So there couldn't possibly be a beginning. So the universe did not begin to exist. You pretty much count on that. It doesn't make any sense. You see what the trick is here? The trick is to think about, to look at those diagrams and think that it's space that came out of everything. But no, it was space-time. And when you add time into that, you've got a big problem when you're talking about causes. And when you're talking about begin to exist, it just doesn't work. And that's why these guys should just shut their goddamn mouths and not talk about physics. Just shut up.
Yeah, because again, we don't have an argument if you just say it's God, it was a miracle, it's what I believe in. I'm gonna go sit down now. And it's like, okay, fine. You know.
Again, you're going to bring this up with that skeptic, and they're not going to fall on their knees. They're not going to say, I never thought of that. They're going to say things like, well, why couldn't the universe have come into existence by itself? Right? Well, there's a problem with that, because our friend Isaac Newton.
Here we go. Now this one.
Oh, Mike, this is stupid.
He uncovered really these laws of motion. And he said in his third law, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction.
Okay, how does that have anything to do with the universe?
I know. So he's using like grade school or or junior high physics and trying to just convince people, and this is just bullshit. Because if the universe was that damn hot that it was in a little tiny dot, none of this shit would work.
Right,
and we know that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, how does any of this apply at the Big Bang?
Yeah. There were hippos, bouncing off each other or something. I don't know.
I hope Deconverted Man doesn't see the purple hippos rather than a lobster.
He's also misunderstanding Newton's third law here, quite deliberately, I've no doubt. Which is to say, yes, it's true that everything has an equal and opposite reaction. But after that reaction, it'll just carry on going until another reaction happens, right? Until some other force intrudes upon it.
Yeah, and if you were to take the more naive...
That's how that happens, right? So
if you were to...
Yeah, something in orbit's actually going in a straight line, and then it's being affected, and then that's what makes it go around. It's all
but
weird.
It's not going to stop, right? A particle of light or a wave of particle of light is not going to stop going until it hits something. It's just going to carry on,
If you were to take the naive view, basically at that basically singularity, basically expanding, there's no reason why there couldn't be another equal and opposite expansion in another direction, nor is there any reason why there couldn't have been an infinite number of expansions from that point of other universes that we don't know. So we just don't know, anything about what that singularity would mean. We can't even do the math. The math breaks down. Newton's physics breaks down. Everything breaks down. So I subscribe to the STFU theory, which is shut the fuck up.
And why are the hippos purple?
Yeah, purple hippos. There you go. That's what
so every action, therefore, has a cause. I push something, it falls over. There's always a cause because for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So to say that the universe happened for no reason, with no cause, is to turn your brain off and enter into an intellectual free zone.
That's what God did. God did it, There was, I don't know. God caused
intellectual free zone. Okay.
We can't say there wasn't a cause because everything has a cause. That's scientific if you really want to follow the science. If we're going to...
Nope, not everything has a cause.
And the science you're using doesn't apply at the Big Bang and before the Big Bang when the physics all breaks down and all this goes out the window.
An intellectual free zone, we might as well say pigs fly and sunflowers live under my shoe.
And this too, when they get sarcastic like this, well, we might as well just say, like animals talk or dead people get up and walk around, right?
People can walk on water.
This is a very poor argument, and this really bothers me when a believer would dare make fun of somebody's beliefs, right? Now, as a skeptic or as a non-believer, you can apply your criticism. But it always bothers me when a believer says, well, yes, of course I believe in talking animals and all this stuff. But you believe in a sunflower that waves at you or something, right? It's like, that's ridiculous, you know? It's like, really? Come on now. Come on. You should be a little more understanding that, you know, of other beliefs, I think. Just to be fair.
Because we can say anything. Because we're just acknowledging, well, it doesn't have to have a cause. No, it does. Scientific.
Yeah, and you can just say anything. Again, God did it. That's just saying anything. That's what the God of the gaps fallacy and everything is.
Now, he said scientifically everything has to have a cause, but I just asked Copilot, according to physics, what things do not have to have a cause. And it listed quantum fluctuations, radioactive decay, spontaneous symmetry breaking, and Big Bang singularity. Those are things that do not have to have a cause. They, you know, in reality, they may, in many instances, but no, there are things that physics has said no, doesn't need a cause or doesn't appear to have a cause, and so so they would have to retreat back to their own faith-based insistence that, oh yes, they do have to have a cause. Based on what? You haven't done. You don't look like you've ever done a physics experiment, except maybe in high school.
And causality is nothing more than regularity. There is no actual causality that we've ever found. It's just regularity. And that just blows his whole idea out of the water.
Yeah.
Simos mentioned radioactive breakdown earlier there. And,
yeah. I mean,
confirmed.
One of the arguments I like best against these particular types of arguments is just stating back to them, could you tell me the logical contradiction with one thing follows another? One event follows another. If you can't find a logical contradiction in that, that's a valid answer. So it's, all of the speculation is just goes straight out the window, right? Because it's not a dichotomy between cause and no cause. That's not what it is, right?
That is the trick.
But I mean, it's a philosophical argument. It's not a, more mathematically based philosophical argument against these things, rather than trying to take them down science and stuff like that, which I always find is quite useless anyway when I'm actually arguing with these people.
So is left-handed Jedi new, or is that somebody you know?
Yeah, I know Jedi.
He's around everywhere.
Yeah, I know Jedi. Yep. And we got Fudd's first law of opposition. If you push something hard enough, it will fall over.
Okay, who's torturing the cat? You, Speed?
That's got to be Speed.
Loki has a mouse again. I'll mute.
It does. What does Isaiah 1:18 says? God says, "Come now and let us reason together, saith the Lord." Right? The Lord is reasonable, and he wants to reason with you. So it's not reasonable to say there was no cause. It just doesn't work. You with me so far? Here's another question people will say. People would say, why couldn't the universe have come into existence by itself? That's why you have to have a cause. And then people might say, why couldn't the universe have always existed? I'm sorry, I misspoke before. The second question, or another question you might get, is why couldn't the universe have always existed? That's what ancient Greeks believed. Aristotle, Plato, they believed in something called the eternity of matter, that the universe was always here.
Not really. Maybe some of them did. Maybe Democritus did.
And it's okay. So they believe that.
Not really. I mean, the first cosmological argument, as I understand it, is one of Aristotle's, and he said that there's an unmoved mover. That's his famous phrase. There is a mover which is unmoved in itself. So I guess that could be interpreted as an eternal being, or an eternal cause, which wasn't caused, an uncaused cause. That's what Ed Fazer's argument says. Ben Shapiro's done one recently, and they're just fallacious on the face of it, really.
Well, we still have a problem with the understanding of how small is small, right? Because every time we go looking, we find that something's made of something smaller, and it's like, breakfast tacos
there is a technical limit on how small things can be.
Yeah, everything's made of pre-existing stuff. So there has to be stuff that makes the stuff. But then you have the problem with that's where they get to. It's like, well, at what point do you get to where you can't have more stuff just for coming from stuff? So then they insert God. But with energy and the first law of thermodynamics, you always have energy. So you can just use the argument, well, energy's always there.
Hmm.
And if you go to Penrose says when the usable energy is used up, you still have energy.
Oh, yeah.
And when his universe re-big bangs, or however you want to call it, then that usable energy becomes usable again. So if that's forever and ever and ever, then the first law kind of says you don't need a creator.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. That's one possibility, for sure.
Sorry, Plato, there's another problem with that. There's this thing called the second law of thermodynamics.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
Second law of thermodynamics? You don't talk
That
about
only
that
works.
table last night?
That only works
if you had
after
any aches and
the
pains,
expansion.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work before or whatever.
Well, and he just joked. He said, I'm sure all of you were talking about this around the kitchen table. Because he knows nobody in that room has anything. What they're talking.
this morning, you are a victim of the second law of thermodynamics. If you got up a little slow today, it's the second law of thermodynamics, because the second law of thermodynamics.
Now, is that really true, Mike? Because your cells and everything only have a finite existence, is that the second law?
No, that's biology, basically. Like the second law doesn't apply to living systems where there's energy going in. It only applies to closed systems. And this is just a bullshit argument. It only applies to a pressure cooker, nothing else.
It's our genetics, right? I mean, basically cells only go for so long, right?
It's another carefully worded one as well, because the words are everything tends to disorder. Doesn't mean everything that always heads towards disorder. Yeah. So there are exceptions, as Mike's saying, and life is one of them. Also, he just said Plato, and it's not Plato; it is Aristotle. I assure you.
Let's just point out for a moment what he's offering. Okay, he's offering a kind of like man-like thing, something that's in the image of man, that has intentionality and builds things and has tools to build things. And this thing lives in a place that where there are no causes, where the second law of thermodynamics is definitely violated. And he lives outside of time and space. That's what he's offering, except his idea is that it's a little tinker god. Then he has tools and he decides with his words that he's going to make things. Like, I will make the elephants now, and I will make the whale. That's what he's offering. And he's making fun of what we have, of our I don't know. And that's what he's offering as an alternative. That is the craziness of it. That it has to be a man-like thing that goes out and builds things, right? Goes out in the garage and builds a table.
We've talked about this before. There's no point. Well, I guess there would be no point in running all the wiring and plumbing and infrastructure, the skeletal structure and the muscles, everything that all work together to make us move around, when it's possible for us to have all of this in the afterlife with none of those things.
Yeah.
So it seems like it was a big waste of time, because all we would really need, as James Apperson often says, is the meat skin, right? You just need a skin. Everything on the inside, it seems like
doesn't matter.
It's completely unnecessary if it can be done with this spirit or whatever you have when you leave your body. So
it
seems like a lot of work for nothing to me.
Yeah, I know if we sin, God could just turn that insides into black goo that, just pulls us down. And if we, otherwise that's all we need is a meat suit.
Or just, or like a computer simulation, right? When those characters are on the screen, all you need is a skin, right? They don't need digestive organs or anything on the inside. They can do all their things and run around in their virtual world without all the complications of designing all the stuff inside, just to have all the problems we have with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
A problem for a hypothesis that would say the universe was always here. It couldn't work. I'll show you why it can't work. The second law says everything's running down. Everything in a closed system is losing energy. Think about it. You take that pan off the stove, what happens? It cools off. It loses energy, right? Your clock breaks. Your car falls apart. Your roof starts, needing Mike Murphy to come fix it, right?
And none of those things are comparable. The car rusting and all that's different. It's not the second law. Okay.
Yeah, I've got a pump.
Well,
I've got a pumpkin seed, and I put it in some moist dirt, and it just breaks down. It just keeps going because the second law says it has to break down. Everything has to break down. So it just turns into dust. It does not grow a pumpkin.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
And it's this idea too that your car is inevitably going to rust and fall apart. And it's like, not if it's kept in a nice HVAC garage, and
yeah. And if the universe overall, if the universe overall is a closed system, and we don't even know that, then yes, some trillions and trillions of years from now, it will eventually entropy will cool everything down, which is what he's so what? It's not doing that right now. That's trillions and trillions of years.
He's applying us and the universe to a rusting car. And it's like those are three completely different things.
He's basically claiming that because of the second law of thermodynamics, you cannot grow pumpkins. It's impossible.
He's treating energy like it's like you're spreading peanut butter on this huge slice of bread. It's that it's all dispersed equally throughout everything. When in fact it's like maybe peanut butter mixed with almonds and coconut and raisins, and there's clumps of energy everywhere, and that has to dissipate out before it all turns to that big spread of peanut butter. So it's going to take a while to get there, and on the way to getting there, complex systems can form and kind of fight that entropy. Or not. I don't know. I was just shooting from the hip.
Start happening.
Hello?
The Energizer Bunny does not keep going and going and going. Everything is running down. Eventually.
Hang on. It doesn't? Do you mean they lied to us in the advert? Unbelievable.
Why would they do such a thing?
Yeah, I don't understand this world.
Thing runs out of energy, including you, and this law is called a law because this law has no exceptions in our universe. There are no exceptions to it.
Then why are you here? Why are you here if everything should have run down? I mean, why are you here? It doesn't make any sense.
And once again, I'm going to remind everybody at the beginning of this, he says, you can't use these arguments like basically from science. And here he is trying to use an argument from science. And you said earlier, this isn't going to work, but that's exactly what you're doing.
Evidence, yeah.
So if the universe always existed, it would be dead by now.
Nope, that doesn't follow either.
No.
That's just bad maths.
This is the argument against infinite regress, because the universe would already be
never
gone.
Got here.
Yeah, and we wouldn't be here now or something. It's a bad argument.
It's a very bad argument.
Grayson, pretty sure Grayson's attacked it pretty well.
Yeah, because even if the universe is eternal, right, and has an endless regress of causation, just give it all of that. If you're going to have to be at some point, at every point in that infinity, at some point.
Yeah.
Right? If you're counting through it, you must reach all of those numbers.
Yeah.
So every single point, at some point, that number is going to be counted.
Yep.
Right? So to say you can't be at that point is just false. I mean, it's just false. Otangelo made this argument to me one time, and I said, Angelo, does the number 32 exist in an infinite number line? And he went, well, yeah. I said, right, can you count to 32?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that it's in the number line, right? So it must be counted.
And with decimal numbers, there's an infinite number of numbers in between
Sure.
every
And
single
I
fraction
asked
in between.
Grayson this specifically because the argument was used that you can't have an infinite regress in time, and Grayson confirmed that there's nothing in physics that says you can't have an infinite regress in time. So once again, you can count backwards -1, -2, -3.
Mm-hmm. There's no logical reason. There's no logical contradiction with an infinite regress. And to show it, all you have to ask is the simple question, where is the contradiction with one event follows another?
And if you get in your car and go to the convenience store, at some point you're going to be halfway there. And then at some point you're going to be half of that and half of that and half of that. It means you're never going to get there.
Yeah. Those arguments are fun to use, but they don't really apply in reality.
Yeah.
It's like those number tricks we were talking about.
The only thing it shows you is that our intuition is really crap. You know, our intuitive understanding of things don't work. And that's all he's got.
A lot of these math tricks are a lot of fun and everything, but is it magical or special that they haven't found a final digit to pi? No, it's just one of those weird things that, numbers do, right?
They keep chasing it.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, maybe they'll catch it. It's kind of like my cat's trying to catch the laser pointer.
Well, every once in a while, you'll see an article where somebody's taking it out another million places or whatever it is.
Yep.
See, now that God could have put proof in the number pi, right? He could have put a code in the number of pi, right, of ones and zeros, a whole string of ones and zeros in the middle, right, which spelt out in binary code something like, I am Yahweh, the God of all creation. And then it could have gone on to infinity with random numbers again.
Yep.
But no, he didn't. It's all random numbers all the way down.
All the way, yeah.
There would be no energy. It would just have died a heat death. And scientists are even worried about that in the far future, that, our sun will burn out, our universe will die, because heat death and the loss of energy is a real result of this second law.
I don't think we're worried about it, though. I don't think we're actually worried about it.
Yeah, our sun, they say, is about halfway through, so
billions
we've got
of
a
years
while.
away. Yeah. Billions of years away.
We got about 4 billion years, I think, something like. Well, we got 2 billion before we get a red star problem. So
ultimately, though, that's one of those thinkers, if you want to call it that.
Hopefully, Trump will be out of office by then.
To survive this planet, we eventually have to leave this planet, at least get farther out. But eventually, we have to leave the solar system. Then you're talking about you have to leave the galaxies, and eventually you would have to leave the universe. If there's another universe, we'd have to cross into it if we wanted to continue. So it's one of those fun things to talk about. Yeah, eventually, if we wanted to survive, we would have to overcome all those things, or one of them is going to make sure the universe never knew we were here.
Is the fact that it could have always been here. It doesn't work, because it had been here, it would have died a long time ago, right? Because energy is always winding down. Well, then people say, well, then who made God?
Yeah.
No, they don't.
Well, no. We know who made God.
We know who made God.
Are we going to specially plead now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Man made God, and then the trouble started.
You ever got that question? And that's kind of like that defers the problem. And Richard Dawkins, that famous atheist idiot.
Wow. Yeah, that famous genius idiot.
That famous atheist idiot. Yeah.
Don't hold back.
Never mind. Don't mention his qualifications. And again, I know that the man has said some things that are stupid, and we're not going to hear We're not talking about that. He's done a lot of science in his day, and he was respected in his field for what he did.
There I go again. He one time very publicly said, well, maybe it was aliens. Maybe aliens did it.
Okay, that is
Maybe.
bullshit.
Yeah.
That is bullshit.
I think this was out of Expelled, and the question was, couldn't there be some kind of a way to put life on this planet? And he said, well, I suppose there could be what you would call a creator if an alien civilization seeded life on this planet. But he also went on to say, but those aliens would have to come from some sort of Darwinian evolution.
And Ben Stein clipped everything around that just to get that little sound bite.
And I used to like Ben Stein until he did that, and I was like,
I didn't realize he was such an ass.
Yeah, me neither. I thought he was fun. He was on that show with Jimmy Kimmel, and and the movies he was in, kind of
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, making fun of his tone and everything, and I thought he was kind of,
he was on the
Mask.
Mask.
Did that dishonest creationist hack of the film called Expelled, and somebody just recently just brought that up and said, oh, you need to watch Expelled, and I'm like, oh, goodness gracious.
That's just such a piece of garbage. I walked out of the theater. I couldn't stand it. Well, I walked out of the theater because I was scared, because I was like responding differently than all the people around me. And I looked at the people around me, and they all had these shiny faces and glazed eyes, and they were applauding and oohing and ahhing at the wrong parts. And I realized that I was the only atheist in the theater. So I very quietly crept out.
Ms. Sequitur's here, and good to see you. Jen, I don't know if I said hi to Jen. Hi, Jen. How you doing?
Yes, I think Ryan's right here. He can't bring himself to say the word panspermia, so.
Yeah, but the problem was, Ben Stein cut it out and hacked it up. And,
and
these people repeat it, and who's the idiot, right? You're repeating something that's known dishonest, right?
Like one of the things I find a little annoying is that Dawkins is an incredibly, generous man when you talk to him about these subjects. He really thinks you want a good argument, or you want, to consider like different points of view and stuff. And he will be very generous in his interpretation of what you're saying in order to try and steel man the argument. Right. So when people go against him dishonestly, no wonder they trip him up. Right. Because he's trying to answer a serious question, and you're just trying to get your little hit. And he's so good at doing that even through all of it, I still think he's hardly ever made a mistake. Right?
Well, and they said he was set
another
up.
one. Let me just rant a moment, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
He said another time, right, that he was talking about the transubstantiation, right? And he said that this is make believe. This is Sky. We know that the wafer doesn't turn into God, right? Now, obviously, he's not saying that to Protestants who don't believe the wafer turns into God. He's saying it to Catholics who genuinely do believe that when you pray over this food, it genuinely turns into physically, not spiritually, physically. Some of the Catholics believe it turns into the blood and body of Christ. That's who he's addressing that comment to. And yeah, every Christian under the sun who doesn't believe that thinks he made some huge blunder in logic. Right? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's my rant. Sorry, people take him out. People are never generous to him in his arguments, and he's always generous to other people. Even when he was talking to that creationist Wendy, what's her name?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was a tough one to watch. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
But they said that they set him up on that Expelled thing too, because like you said, he was under the impression that it was an interview or something like that. That it he wasn't ready for an adversarial thing or anything like that. I don't think at all.
That's not his style. He's an intellect.
And shame on you, Ben Stein. You disappointed a lot.
There's a giant universe out there that's just spitting out other universes, like an old jukebox used to spit out songs at the diner. Like there's all these things they use to explain it, but you haven't gotten around the problem that there must be a first cause. You're just trying to make it anybody else but God. You're just trying to defer the reality that there must be a first cause.
Why must there be a first cause? Why must there be a first cause? Your only argument is, well, we couldn't have had any causes if there wasn't a first cause, and that's just not an argument.
That's what comes to my mind right away. It's like, well, why not? And they never answer that.
Yeah, he doesn't. He
that
doesn't.
first
And when I've
cause-
heard people try recently, I heard a video with Ben Shapiro doing it, and he goes, "Oh, it's turtles all the way down."
Yeah.
Right? Well, what's below the last turtle then? And you just go, well, hang on a minute. He just said it was turtles all the way down. So there is no last turtle for there to be something below, because it's just turtles. Right? So it's just a misunderstanding, a refusal to accept, right? Absolute refusal to accept that this is a possible answer. And the reason they have to do that is because they need it to be a dichotomy, black and white thinking.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've finished, Dave. Go ahead.
Hey, on Ben Stein's movie, Snack, will you stop it? Ben Stein's movie, the funniest thing about it is when Richard Dawkins and P.Z. Myers went to see the movie, they both were interviewed during the documentary. They threw P.Z. Myers out, but they didn't recognize Richard Dawkins, and they let him in. So they had security usher P.Z. Myers out. Basically, they wouldn't let him go. And they interviewed him in the movie, which is hilarious. So that happened at the Mall of America here.
Yeah, he's been hacked up by that and Ray Comfort too.
First cause. Look at Isaiah 57. Isaiah 57.
Do I have to?
Let's see some things about God here. Isaiah 50.
I see again. He's just looking for a verse. He's got that paper in his hand. Why didn't you put it on that paper? Of course, here I am, and I couldn't find my document at the beginning of the show, so I should probably shut up and just keep playing.
Yeah,
7, you're in the neighborhood. Isaiah 57:15. Isaiah 57:15.
The Lord said,
the beginning
"Oh,
says,
you're all a bunch of
For
fucking
thus
waste
saith
of
the
time.
high
I'm
and
gonna
holy
flood the
one
earth."
that inhabiteth eternity. So when someone gives you who made God, don't get upset about that question. The biblical God, by definition, by the nature of his character, has no beginning.
So you're defining God into existence. Thank you.
His character.
By the character that we made up for him.
Yeah. That you cannot know the mind of God. It also says that in the Bible. So that always bothers me too when they start describing all the things about God. But doesn't it also say in the Bible that you can't know any of these things about God, right?
Has no ending. All right, look at Isaiah chapter 44, verse 6. Isaiah 44, verse 6.
All right.
Isaiah 44, verse 6. Thus saith the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. I am the first and I am the last, and beside me there is no God. So the biblical God is the first and the last. So when someone...
Now, wait a minute. If you're first and last, isn't that like a timeline, Simos?
Yeah, I mean, both of those are temporal words. You're absolutely correct.
And what's up, Jay? How you doing? Thanks for stopping by.
Temporal. Maybe temporal's too strong a word, but in this case, yeah, it's temporal.
Asks you who made God, it's like somebody asking you, what does a four-sided triangle look like?
It would be the
pyramid?
square that you renamed or vice versa. And this always comes back to, well, if God is all powerful, can't God make a four-sided triangle? That's the old question of, can he make a rock
There is a name
to
for the
lift or any of these things? And I'm like, well, in my idea of the supernatural, you're throwing all the laws of physics and logic and everything out the window, right? So it opens up the possibility of, why not a square triangle?
Oh yeah, tetrahedron. That's what it's called.
Well, it could be like in 2 dimensions at the same time. You know what I mean?
Well,
A square
three
and a
dimensions.
triangle. Yeah, all at the
dimensions.
same time. Yeah, and on different timelines and everything else.
Tetrahedrons. Four-sided.
Yeah. So these questions always bother me just for that reason, because if you can defer to the supernatural to explain away anything, then why can't I just go to the supernatural and say, well, sure, there can be a square triangle, right? It's the same
Yeah.
logic, or lack of, because you're deferring to the supernatural that throws all these things out the window. You know, God stops the earth from spinning, and you know,
Well,
the
we know
sun
there are
from moving, and people back from the dead, and animals talking. And if you can do all these things, why not?
we know that there are triangles because we've defined that anytime you have like 3 segments, or forming a angles at total 180 degrees, that's a triangle. We've defined triangles not necessarily into existence, but recognizing that such things exist, we call them triangles. There's nothing that exists that necessarily has to be called God.
Or that God defined triangles.
Yeah.
Like
and remember
saying,
before,
we define triangles.
Remember before, gods were these human-looking things that, with tempers and sexual appetites, and usually they had a king, so you could actually have gods who weren't in control of the whole universe, and then suddenly we defined God into this universal monotheistic God with various characters. It's all defined into existence. He's not shown anything that necessitates calling anything God, other than the fact that, gee golly, I want to know what a God is. And so you define it into existence. There's you make with triangles. We defined it, but it already existed.
Well,
With
existence
these
is a
Christian
difficult word.
guys, they're defining God, hoping to make everybody think he exists.
Existence is a difficult word there, Scott. I would point you to my on my channel. There's a video called "The Math Ain't Mathin'."
The math ain't math.
Have a look at that, and it talks about different conceptions of how we can look at existence when it comes to Platonic objects and mathematical objects.
All right, yeah, definitely.
Just to say, it's in that State of the Onion series.
Just all in all, though, if you're going to open up, I can just make up anything, then I can just make up anything too.
I'll get it for you.
What does a four-sided triangle look like? It's a misnomer. It's a red herring. It's a question to which there is no answer, because it's like a triangle by nature has how many sides? Right? Three sides. So there is no such thing as a four-sided triangle. So when someone says, who made God? Ask them, well, what does a four-sided triangle look like? You say, no, a triangle's only got 3 sides. Well, then God, by definition, has no beginning or ending.
But you made up that definition.
Yeah. Just like you made up the definition of triangle.
There's no need to make up a definition for a God, because we have other explanations for triangles and the vast energies being hurled about in the firmament and things like that.
And I'm going to use it back. There's a definition for a circle, and there's a definition for Bigfoot. Therefore, Bigfoot exists. That's ridiculous.
Well, it's the precept argument again. He seems to go from, I'm going to make these arguments. I know they're weak, so at the end, I'm just going to claim that it's precept.
And you could pick any word out of the dictionary and stick it in that equation, right? It doesn't matter. It's like, here's a word that's defined. Therefore, this word over here that's dragon or fairy or leprechaun becomes real because it has a definition. It's just okay. I like that one. Doesn't take very much string. I got that. Bam, right there. All right.
In the
Right,
in the
he's
private chat for you, Scott.
eternal. But to
Yeah.
say who made God and try to defer the cause and get around that argument, all it does is create what smart people call an infinite regress. You've just created now an endless loop. Well, God didn't do it, aliens did it. Well, then who made the aliens?
A regress is not a
Who made the
loop.
ones that made the aliens? You have to have
That's
a
all
first
wrong.
cause. You have to have a beginning. And the Bible tells us who the beginning is. Jesus says, I am the beginning, right? And so he is the beginning, right?
No, he
So
doesn't say that. There's no point in the Bible does Jesus say, "I am the beginning."
I am the Father are one. It says, in the beginning was God. Again,
But he's just taking liberties, maybe, to say that Alpha means the beginning.
Yeah, and he's kind of changed the categories too, because we were talking about infinite regress, or we were talking about who made God, and then suddenly, what did he say? I guess I'm the Alpha and the
But
Omega, or something like that. It's like that's a totally different thing.
could
The
be.
words sound the same.
Yeah.
yeah,
he is our first cause. That's the cosmological argument in a nutshell. You with me
Correct.
so far? If I go too fast, just tell Mario. All right,
Can we
let's go.
I'd just like to point something out as well. Aristotle was the person that came up with that argument, and of course, he didn't believe that the Yahweh was it.
Yeah, and did he mention God even? He said there's just a prime mover or a
No.
first cause.
That's right. He's the motion, the thing that sets everything in motion, the first mover.
to another one. All right, let's go to another fancy word. This one really makes me feel like I could talk to somebody from Harvard. All right, the teleological argument.
Oh my God. Okay, stop there. So he's already said God did everything. He's given the trees argument,
yep.
right? The trees argument completely blows this argument away. This makes the trees argument makes this argument completely irrelevant and unnecessary, almost illogical. Go ahead.
Which is really just the argument from design. Let's go to Romans chapter 1 on this one. Romans chapter 1. Romans chapter 1. Again, I'm showing you these things, and I hope it strengthens your faith. I hope it gives you food for thought. Romans 1:20. Here's the key verse for the argument from design. The Bible says in Romans 1:20, "For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen." You could clearly see invisible things. That's a parallel.
Yeah, I can clearly see invisible things. Every time I hear that, it just sounds silly. I wish they would quit, but this has became a favorite. Almost, what almost every video is these same verses, and every time I hear it, I just think it's silly that it's my fault that I cannot see invisible things. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. And this goes back to, it doesn't matter how serious you're trying to be with your arguments. When you throw out something like, well, it's your fault because you can't see invisible things. I'm like, really? I think, was it Simos mentioned, or no, I think it was Math Pig mentioned earlier that really these are the things that are going to get held against you for all eternity because you said, wait a minute, it doesn't make any sense that I can't see invisible things. Oh, no heaven for you. Oh, man. All right.
Paradox, but it's a truth. Being understood by the things that are made, even as eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Bible says man has no excuse because you can see God in what he's made. Right?
Right.
Every building has to have a builder.
Then we go Ray Comfort.
That's right.
Painting's got to have a painter.
Every penis has a sucker.
The watchmaker argument is pretty old, and what else is also pretty old was the debunking of the watchmaker. So
Yeah.
Every time they use it, they're way behind either way. How you doing, Speedy? Good to see you.
Let's just get through this part because this is one of the most boring arguments I can think of.
I don't have to see the builder to know there was a builder. I just look around this room and I know somebody built this thing. I have eyes that can see and a mind that works and a heart that's honest enough. If I tried to convince you that a Coca-Cola can fell from the sky and all this stuff about the Coca-Cola can, you'd say you're out of your mind. Well, that's what people are saying every day in science classrooms around the country and around the world.
No, that's Ray Comfort. That's directly from Ray Comfort. He uses the Coca-Cola can appearing out of the sky.
And I think he's just ripping that off from The Gods Must Be Crazy. Do you remember that movie? Must have been from back in the 70s, maybe the 80s, about this Aborigines or indigenous person in Australia who got, a Coke bottle thrown out of an airplane, landed on him or near him, and he thought the gods were angry, so he tried to. I think he tried to go return the Coke bottle to somebody so that the gods wouldn't be angry anymore. It was a funny movie. It was called The Gods Must Be Crazy. They even made a sequel to it.
So did he just say that that science is claiming Coke cans evolved?
That they just show up? Yeah, they evolve themselves or something.
Or they spontaneously came from nowhere. That sounds like Christianity.
He's basically saying what Ray Comfort says in his silly videos is what's being taught in the science classroom, and it's like absolutely not. That's not being taught.
And I'm just saying, the Coke can from the heavens is not an original anecdote or anything. He grabbed it from The Gods Must Be Crazy. So don't even give the Christians credit for the Coca-Cola can from the sky argument.
All right.
So what he's inferring here is that there must be a natural explanation for the Coke can because everything has a natural explanation according to scientists. So he's basically implying scientism or some kind of philosophical naturalism, right? And that there can be no gods, therefore everything must have a natural explanation. And that isn't at all what naturalism is. So he's not only strawmanning naturalism in this process, he's also claiming that all scientists would claim that a Coke can only has a natural explanation. And that, of course, although there is a natural explanation, I mean, I believe most scientists would think that there is a natural explanation for a Coke can, mainly because humans who designed the Coke can are natural beings, right? So if you want to keep going down the regress argument, then yeah, sure, it's going to be natural, right? Because there's no God. However, to say that there is no, we give no axiological explanations for things as scientists is completely false, right? We do give intentional explanations for things. Coke cans would be one of them. Motor cars would be another one. Anything which is designed with intention, we would give an axiological explanation for. And there are many humans and things, animals, that have minds. So this is just, this is just a crazy argument of lack of philosophical knowledge on his part once again. And I'm not surprised that you guys are mentioning Ray Comfort.
Classic.
If I looked at a painting like the Mona Lisa and I would say, who painted that? You'd say Da Vinci. You ever see Da Vinci? No. Do you know Da Vinci? No. You ever talk to him? No. You ever walk across your backyard? No. But every painting has to have a painter by nature of the painting's existence.
Yeah, that's the problem. Again, because of the painter of the painting, there has to be a painter. But that doesn't, again, go to, well, because of the universe, it has to go to the God. This is, again, that just because we have these things doesn't mean it automatically equates to the other thing.
Yeah, it's called having background information. We have enough background information about paintings and cans to know that humans made them. and they, the things that they made have a lot of the almost like ear markings, but you could say tool markings or just indications of human manufacturing. But when you have things popping down from the skies and landing on us that that have no such background information to
Like
indicate,
UFOs. UFOs. Yeah.
we may actually have something land on Earth that we're confused about whether it was designed by an intelligent
Or
being
natural.
or beings, or did it occur naturally somehow?
Yeah.
That would be
Just
that's
to
the
be
case
clear.
with the UFOs.
Yeah.
Just to be clear here, if we have a reason to believe a mind is involved in some kind of explanation, then we can give those kinds of explanations.
Right.
If we have no reason, no foreknowledge that a mind is involved, then we cannot give axiological or intentional or purposeful explanations. That's the problem. They assume that there's a mind involved called God, although we have no evidence for it. And
that's when you're going to have a weird object cult.
Yeah.
That's why everything seems to be purpose-driven on their explanation, right? But doing that is just going back to the look at the trees. Well, if you think everything has a purposeful explanation, then why even bother with science at all? Why even bother with nomological explanations? Why try and work out that there are regularities and how they're broken and how they're not broken?
If you've ever been to a gem museum or a rock museum where they have all these fantastic rocks, and when you look at those things, it's like, why don't you think, oh my God, that must have had a designer, because that is just so incredibly beautiful. It's just, you don't, because you have background knowledge about rocks and crystals, right? Mm-hmm. And this is just such a bullshit argument. You just fast forward through this guy.
Yeah, one area that's very analogous to what we're talking about is the area of prehistoric human tools. You get down into the area of Australopithecus. I'm not going to try to say it, but that kind of primate creature. You start finding rocks that may have been shaped and honed and developed by those little furry critters. Those Australopithecus. Okay, there we go. And scientists have to take pause because they wonder, okay, was this formed by just being basically rushed down the river and hitting other rocks, or was it formed by humans hitting rocks with rocks to make sharp rocks? And that's where it kind of becomes a question: did an intelligent, quote unquote, intelligent designer form this, or did it form naturally? And that gives you pause, and you should take it seriously. And this Christian is pretending that it's an easy thing to answer. And he's saying, I think essentially too, that we ought to just worship it because obviously it was made by an intelligence, not our own or something. But it's not easy. And hopefully someday we'll have to answer that question about things we find in space or things in space that land on the Earth. But right now we can tell.
No, but so why is it so hard to believe that a living creature that is far more complicated than any of those things has a creator? That's not a hard follow.
Well, because again, science gives explanations for how. Like we have evolution to explain the evolution of life on the planet. And we have cosmology and physics and everything to explain how planets form around stars and how stars form and all these things. These things have explanatory power where God did it just doesn't. And it doesn't matter how many times you say it. Again, I have to point out, you can say God did it all you want. It's not going to get your video on the internet.
John 1:3 says, all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. So the Bible says there can't be.
Good for you.
Oh, I just said cool story, bro, because
Yeah,
that's all he's doing
Yeah.
is.
that's it. Yeah. Okay.
I want to get Paul Ogia's "For the Bible Tells Me So" jingle going.
Yeah, that was going through my head the other day. Somebody said it.
Anything made without a maker. There can't be a creation without a creator. And the argument from design based
And once again, I go back to energy. The first law doesn't, you cannot create it, only change it. So you don't need a creator. And again, you can go with a Penrose argument. The universe just starts over and over and over again. And there's no problem that it went over and over again an infinite amount of times. I think we've pretty much settled all of that. So your
Yeah, and I hope
arguments
that while
all
physics,
fail.
I hope that while physics is looking for the answers to those questions there, that maybe the Christians will work on, maybe coming up with evidence for God.
Yeah.
And not just using lame ass arguments that have been defeated over and over and over and over again.
It's hard to find new arguments. It really is. They don't change much. Like I say, this guy was kind of snarky, and so I said, okay, well, we'll give it a listen and give our opinions on it, because I think this guy needs some opinions on his terrible arguments. So if you're out there listening, Patrick, your arguments are terrible and pretty much easily debunked by just some basic science, and knowing that the way you're using some of these arguments so far, especially when we were at the beginning with the Big Bang, are things that are laws of physics. Once the universe is already going, this doesn't apply. So why you're even picking all these things out is only, like I think when you hinted to earlier, that it just sounds impressive. And he joked about, oh, come on, you all are talking about these things around the kitchen table, right? Knowing that the crowd doesn't have any idea what these words mean, or any of these laws mean, or what an open or closed system is, or anything. It's just it's disinformation, and you're being dishonest, Patrick.
basically says that the design of things points to the designer, points to God Almighty. Let's talk about seeing. Let's just take like the eye.
Oh no.
Now, I have a lot to say about the eye because I have been to more eye doctors than probably you have in your life. When I was 8 years old, a thorn bush tore my left eye apart. I'm legally blind in my left eye, and I know all these things about the eye. Your eye has 126 million light-sensitive cells in a space that is smaller than a quarter.
And there are little critters that have only like one light sensitive cell, and it works for them. And you can go through a progression from there to now.
So he's doing one of those arguments from incredulity performances.
Yep, you got it in one, Scott.
And not to mention, the eye has evolved in all different ways. It doesn't make any sense when you start going to, why do some species have such better vision than we do? Why do some species see in different wavelengths of light than we do, right? It opens that all up. Just like when they're talking about bats got echolocation, and it's like, yeah, but not all species got echolocation, and we didn't get echolocation. It's like, so these things seem to be exclusive more to their niche rather than, wow, what a neat thing that, I could have all these, different, seeing different wavelengths of light, and maybe the heat signatures, like infrared, all that stuff, and be like Predator, right? When you hit the buttons on your arm and you zoom, 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 right? These things would be great, but it seems more that they are more of a product of the environment for these specific species to take advantage of a specific niche.
Okay, I posted a video that is from Wired, every eye in the animal kingdom, and if you watch that video, you'll get a pretty clear idea about all the different kinds of eyes there are, and the fact that they evolved. So it's a
And
good.
that's-
Just came
and-
out, I think.
Okay.
I think.
And Richard Dawkins has a good video on it too. That it's
This
very
one is
old.
This is the best one I've ever seen. It came out 2 days ago, and I just got a notification today. But I think everyone should watch it before you listen to this bullshit.
Yeah, you can watch a modern one. Like I say, you can go back and you can see Richard Dawkins, like in the 70s or whatever. He's got a loud suit on. It's and you can go back even farther and farther, because they often quote mine this out of Darwin's book. That Darwin said something about how could the eye have come about, et cetera, et cetera. And then he goes on to explain how in the following paragraphs. And they always kind of leave that part out.
Colleen, would you like to wire that job? I mean, that is a serious wiring job. That's a career job. Even Darwin admitted it would be absurd to think that this came from slow, gradual, natural processes.
Yeah,
See,
and then
I told you so.
In the next paragraph, he tells you how it could. Yeah.
There we are again. I have seen this video, but I don't know it by heart or anything. But yeah, there it comes right out of his mouth, right? Even Darwin said he couldn't. It's like, no, that's how the book is worded, where he like proposes the question to himself and then answers it, right?
And then he answers it. They always forget that paragraph that follows.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't think, of course,
Right
they're
on.
not aware of that because they had never picked the book up. So
Right on cue, Patrick. Right on cue.
yeah, he's just,
Right.
this guy.
You see, when
Listen,
Darwin looked through a
time to wrap
microscope, he
things
didn't
up.
look through microscopes like we do. Darwin called the cell a glob of protoplasm.
Oh my God.
So what? So what?
Yeah.
I think it was Karitsu earlier. Maybe somebody said it earlier. We don't care what Darwin said. We don't care
Not
what
only that,
Darwin
but-
knew and didn't know. It doesn't really matter, because there's
That's all they could
so
see
much
back
sense.
then. That's
Yeah.
all they could see back then is the glob. But I doubt any of them thought that that's all that was going on, because that little glob did a whole bunch of things that they didn't really understand. They didn't know because they couldn't see that fine. But today we know a whole lot about that cell. I know
But
way
what
too
Darwin
much.
thought was a glob of protoplasm is more complex than a supercomputer. And now that we can see,
No,
How did you
no,
figure that out?
no, it's not.
Yeah, see, again, it's just look at how super duper it is. Okay, weak, and yeah, it's about time to wrap things up here. So we'll listen for one more minute here, and then we'll
Yeah,
close
he's going
things.
downhill.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Patrick. I clickbaited people that they were going to get proof of God. And I see Ed even came back to check to see if we had found it. And I hope you had a good show, Ed. And we're still lacking. Unfortunately, we're still lacking.
I just want to hear him say one thing. I want to hear him say the one thing that Scott predicted, which was, now, how can you believe that? That's
Yeah.
the phrase I'm looking for.
Yep, that's what they
Got one space left on the bingo card.
deep down into those cells, it's blowing people's minds. Each cell is more complicated than a supercomputer, and your body has upwards of 37 trillion of these cells in your body right now. And inside each of these cells is DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, right? DNA. Now you learn something else. DNA. And DNA are the instructions. That is the code.
No.
That is the
No.
information in the cell that makes you, you.
DNA is the least remarkable thing that happens in cells.
The reason you're a human and not a sunflower is because your DNA contains the information to make you a human and not a sunflower. That begs the question, where does this information come from? I mean, who wrote the code? Who designed the design? Right?
Information is a terrible argument. We've addressed it before. A molecule forming a bond, or elements forming a bond and becoming a molecule is information. So there you go. And that happens perfectly naturally. And as you pointed out, deoxyribonucleic, or maybe you didn't, deoxyribonucleic acid is a molecule. So again, what's stopping another bond, another bond, another bond, and another bond?
Yeah.
As Mike and Simos, and I think others pointed out earlier, there's nothing's preventing that. So if you can admit to basic chemistry that naturally these elements form bonds and become molecules, then that is information, and there's nothing stopping another bond and becoming more complex, like DNA is.
Now, this gentleman, his name is Werner Gitt. He is a professor of information systems from Germany. He
Sounds
is a
like trouble.
creationist.
Oh, that guy.
And
Information and a creationist.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll listen to this and then we'll call it a night, because this ought to be good.
This is killing
he's
me.
an expert in what they call information science. And he makes the claim in his book that if you pick up a book, you know there was an author by nature of the book. Nobody would convince you that monkeys could type Hamlet, right? They tell you if you give it infinite time, monkeys will type Hamlet. No, they won't.
Well, if you're going to go infinite, then why not?
Yeah, they will. You give them typewriters and paper.
See, again, you're not understanding the argument, Patrick.
Emphasize, once again, background information. We know how writing
Exactly.
started. We know how it's done. We know about the media that's used for writing, and we have plenty of background information to know who wrote books and who provides information like that. And,
Well, we know that languages like that get used in books
right.
have minds. That people that use language have minds. They're the people that write books. So we're in the ballpark for giving some kind of explanation, which is there's a purpose to why this was written.
They'll just get a lot of poop on the paper, right? They're not going to type Hamlet, right? Because this is what he says, it's a great analogy. If I spill ink on the paper, do I have information?
Yes.
Yes. Obviously. Have you ever seen a Jackson Pollock?
Yeah.
Or have you ever done a Rorschach where
Exactly. I was going to say a Rorschach.
looks like a banana to me, or looks like a bat to me? So
that goes into your senses and it's information. There you go.
You look at it, go bat. Next.
When I heard this, I immediately thought Patrick.
No. I've got the material to transmit the information, right? So people say, well, your DNA is just material. No, it's not. The material is organic.
DNA is not material?
Wow, that's nice.
There you go, Mike. DNA is not material.
Yep. It's all information. Oh, my
Organic,
God.
but there is a code written into the material. If I just spill
There's a code written into the material, but it's not material.
ink on the paper, I don't have information.
Yes, you
What
do.
makes the ink on the paper meaningful? Intelligence.
That's right, a mind.
Yeah,
Yeah. You got
because it
Duh.
gives it meaning.
duh.
Oh, Patrick. Yeah, this is like a 4-part series. Y'all have to let me know if you want to revisit Patrick's series. This is almost the end of part 1.
I don't ever want to hear from this guy again, ever.
Scratch Patrick.
Scratch.
All right, Patrick, you're
I feel
gone.
pretty much the same.
Yeah. I like the toaster guy better. He was more fun.
Yeah.
I would like an
boring.
update when they remodel that basement.
Yeah. You want those old tiles, don't you? You redo your bathroom with them, Scott?
Yeah, that would actually be useful.
aquamarine.
I just put a sample of DNA out there and alongside a sample of code, and compare the two and tell me if they look different to you. If one looks like somebody did it and the other one looks like just a bunch of shit happened.
Well, this Austin let it drop that this church or whatever it is has a lot of creationists through there and a lot of names that you might know.
Oh, they might have somebody who's interesting. This guy was just a bore. He's
it's kind of a hub, so I'll
toaster
look
brain.
around. Yeah, I'll look around and see who else talked there. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll do another one. But yeah, this, like I say, he kind of has an attitude, but at the same time, really bad. Bunch of disinformation, not understanding the arguments, and then just, just giving you a look and just kind of pacing around his podium like, oh, come on, it has to be God. And it's like, it doesn't explain anything. You didn't explain, and it's not evidence or proof or anything else. Go ahead, Sam.
I did get something from it, which I thought was quite interesting, which is this is how the sausage of faith is made. There's a famous quote from someone, I can't remember who. Like, he starts out by saying, it's faith. You're never going to convince people through logical reason or evidence that God exists. It's faith. And then goes on to do try and do exactly the opposite thing. Right? Tell the congregation, these people that he's allegedly educating, to go out and say to atheists, oh, we've got reasons. We've got evidence, right? Look at the sky, evidence. Look at these reasons, unmoved mover, right? So, like, the whole thing is contradictory, right? And that's what I find quite amazing. And then even then, after saying it's faith, just claim faith first. You'll be fine with the atheists. We know that's true. Then give these arguments. You'll be fine. Even then, he still had to say, and if those don't work, just presup God. Just say the Bible says God exists. There you go. Right? So the disingenuousness of presenting arguments or presenting a stratagem to his young pupils, as we're assuming they are, in this way, is just mind-blowingly destructive to young minds that actually have and are believing these things to be good ways of inquiring. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what I find I dislike about this guy the most. He's teaching young kids that have open minds to close their minds.
He goes into a lot more in part 2. So if you want to irritate yourself,
just as bad.
You guys can go watch part 2. He gets even more irritating and condescending. I think pretty much as he goes, his colors show that he just wants to yell and scream that atheists are idiots, and it surfaces.
I think it's a bit more divisive than that. I think this is how they make the next generation of Christians, by closing the minds of young people before they even get a chance to consider something as being possibly true. Right?
I'm pretty sure they're all young Earth creationists and everything too.
Whatever. I mean, nobody's born that way. So
it's a lot of disinformation going on.
No, it's a series. Again, it's a series of arguments, right, which lead people to shut their mind down. They say, well, if I don't understand faith, I don't really understand what faith is. Oh, well, here's some arguments. Okay, let's look at these arguments. Well, they seem quite reasonable. Yeah, I mean, the words go together in a sentence, so that's something. And then they say, oh, well, if you don't understand this argument because it's too complex, then just presume God. Then just a priori assume God's true because that's what the Bible says anyway. You don't need a reason for that. You don't need to understand that. Right? That's it. You've now closed the mind, because that little fraction of a window where they had an open mind to try and consider whether Aristotle's unmoved mover argument is true or not, or whether there's any flaws in it, or whether the cosmological arguments at all have any flaws in them, or whether they're just like begging the question or special pleading or these kind of fallacies, that all of that little moment they had where they could consider those things and go, well, something's not quite right there. I wonder what that is. And that should lead them down a path then to discover about logical fallacies. But they can't have that opportunity because they've been blocked by someone saying, yeah, but the Bible says it's true anyway. So it doesn't matter whether you find a flaw.
And again,
it's one of the reasons that I do consider myself to be an anti-theist.
And he's not up there
Sorry,
again. He's not up there preaching. He's giving out a lot of disinformation. You want to preach your holy books, go ahead, right? But you're not just doing that. You're giving out disinformation about scientists and science, and that's what we're addressing, right? And you shouldn't do that. Mike, go ahead.
Simos, are you an anti-realist about math?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, I'm a realist, so that's a throwdown fight between us. We should have a fight sometime. Yeah,
sure. We talked about this before, and I would certainly love to get a little panel together because most people I've come across in the community are fictionalists of some sort or another.
Yeah, and it's kind of a trip up for some of these apologists, basically, because they're almost on the same branch, of
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and anyway,
I wish I could have had you in. I wish I could have had you in that program I did because I was trying desperately to give the Steelman the Platonist version of mathematics, the atheist Platonist version, and I was finding it very difficult against a room full of fictionalists. Yeah, so I really could have used you then.
The Platonist version is almost.
How you doing?
The Platonist version is almost the Christian version. It's much closer to Wu than my version, which is formalism, basically.
Oh, okay.
If you look at that chart. So anyway, but I think I can present an argument for it. It's just that it takes a little bit of looking at it from a different perspective. You have to look at it.
I'd love to come on if you want to do a show about it. I'd love to come on and talk to you about it. That's for sure.
Yeah, maybe I'll set that up because this is really something that I'm passionate about. So anyway. Yeah.
Okay, I'll look forward to that, Mike. I look forward to that. And thank you, Ed, the Reverend Atheist. It's one of the reasons that I'm so disgusted with a lot of the lower branches of the evangelical church, etc., or teachers, or the indoctrination, let's say.
Yeah, I am so tired of them. There's these two ladies that do a show called I've Had It. I think that's the name of their YouTube site.
Yeah, that's
it. They just did a thing on fundamentalist Christians and how they are the exact same mindset that falls for Trump. And they did that today. Well, they're so fired up, they're doing like 5 videos a day now on Trump. But anyway, they have one. They are really a good channel. I love those two. They do. I think they also do they have something called like this asshole or something, or they talk about one guy and they'll explain all the reasons why I'm pretty sure it's the same site. Anyway, they're really great.
Yeah, the reason why they're so feisty is they're in Oklahoma, I think, which means they're surrounded.
Oh, okay. Yeah. God, I love those two. I could listen to them all day. They're just snarpy. Pretty cool.
I'm going to put my pick up here one more time.
I'll see if I can find a link to it.
Yeah, congratulations, Dave. That's really good news.
500 subscribers, and I want to thank everybody again for helping me out. I was trying to hit. I had set a goal for 500 by the 3rd anniversary of my channel, and I was pretty close, about a week or so off. But and a lot of great folks helped me. A lot of great shout outs. A lot of great people coming on the channel, like Present Company here, and everybody coming through in the chat, like all the great folks that came through tonight, dropping lots of comments. And I hope you dropped a like and checked out the description. Lots of great links in the description, as well as people's merch and affiliates and a discount code. And make sure everybody goes and subscribes to Carrie Ann's new channel. It's not she has a new channel, so it's not just her Carrie Ann channel. That link is in the description. Carrie Ann's going to get into making some videos and taking on some stuff. So everybody make sure to support Carrie Ann and everybody else that's in the description below.
So I
Grass
put the
Man
link.
Chronicles, my other channel where I mostly do the cryptid stuff. That link is also in the description too.
I put a link to that. I've had a video about Christians Christians and Trump in the chat, and I also put a link to their channel. So grab that. You might be amused by that one.
And if you aren't subscribed, bump me up a little bit. I've been bouncing around. It went 501, 500, 501, 5. So I wasn't really going to say anything in case it went 499 again, right?
That's nice.
But YouTube sent me an email that said officially they recognizing I have 500 subscribers.
Okay.
So I can put in an application and hopefully we'll have some stickers and whatever other things they give us. So we'll have some extra things for fun with that too. So looking forward to all that. And with that, anything, any final words on Patrick, everybody?
Boring.
Tropes.
Patrick, we were disappointed. We came for the proof of God, and we didn't get the proof of God.
Or just an interesting argument that has not been defeated over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And, we like to have a little fun here. Again, this is never personal. Usually it's just because it's really terrible. And when we hear these things and you just somehow make them even worse, it's kind of funny. Okay. But
yeah, Patrick, leave the kids alone.
Yeah. And if you want to preach your religion, if you want to have your religion, especially in this country, even though we really don't support it around here, you have every right to do it. Okay. When you start giving out disinformation, then folks like us have every right to point it out that you're giving out disinformation. So don't do that. Just stick to whatever you do out of your book and do your little things in church and macaroni art in Sunday school. I had fun doing that. I don't have any problems with that. Knock yourselves out. But if your religion really can stand on its own and it's so great and awesome like you say it is, I really don't see the point of the disinformation and, like the video I made the other day, defaming a dead person just to somehow score religious points. It's really, to me, showing a weakness and not a strength of your position. Right?
Okay.
And with that, thank you, everybody. Everybody have a good one. And I hope to see you, everybody, again next Saturday.
Looking forward to it.
Be back. It's good to be back.
And it's good to have you back, Simos. Really good to have you back. I'm glad you're feeling better. We were genuinely concerned, and
yeah, well, me too for a little while there, but like I said, they just kept giving me different drugs until one worked, so I'm lucky. Lucky I'm in the UK.
Yep, and that too. Yeah. Well, grateful that they gave you the right drugs and it cleared you up, and we hope to have you back again as a regular panel member, as the other folks here and other folks that come in, and guests like we had tonight. Robbie Math Pig was here joining us. That was really great. And again, Math Pig, if you're not subscribed over there, his link is in the description too. Make sure you check that out. And appreciate everybody. I hope you have a good one.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Without a sound, history speaks in tales of lore, knocking at the captive desk's door. Oh, legends live within these walls, silent echoes in the halls.
Silent echoes in the halls, books and stories on the floor, knocking